I call to meeting this September 8th, 2025 meeting of the Henderson County Board of Public Education. First, would like to start out by apologizing to the public for our tardiness, but we will proceed, and we are going to, I'm going to ask you to stand for the presentation of colors. North Henderson High School Air Force, JROTC, under the leadership of Colonel Eric Runquist.
Hold. Post. Cut. Ready. Face. Freezing. Arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. Ready. Face. Forward. March. Forward. March. March. March.
Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection. You may be seated. Board members, you have the agenda before you. I will take a motion to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye. Likewise opposed? Agenda is approved. The first item of business on our agenda tonight is to fill the seat of vice chair upon Mr. Bridges' passing, and to fill his term, which would be until December 25. So we will vote on nominations in the order that they're received, and I'm going to now open the floor for nominations for vice chair.
I would like to nominate Amy Lynn Holt for vice chair.
Is there a second? Okay, we have Amy Lynn Holt. Are there any other nominations? Mrs. Holt, will you accept the nomination as vice chair? Sure. Okay. All right, so I'm going to close the floor for nominations. At this point, we're going to vote. All those in favor of Mrs. Amy Lynn Holt as vice chair through December or until December, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Congratulations, Madam Vice Chair. And do we need to do any rearrangement, or we'll do it next time? Thank you, Amy Lynn. Okay, with that done, we are now ready for our staff and student recognitions.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is always a great highlight, and we're glad to be back in the swing of things and recognizing some of the great activities of our students and our staff members across the district. First, I'd like to bring Mr. John Hard up, who's going to share some good news about Mr. Cody Merriman at Glen Marlowe.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Good afternoon, members of the board. It's my honor today to recognize the Marlowe fourth grade teacher, Mr. Cody Merriman, as this year's recipient of the Slater Family Honored Educator Scholar Award. This award, given through the North Carolina Advancement of Teaching, NCAT, recognizes an outstanding K-12 teacher in Henderson and Jackson County. So just to put this in perspective, any applicant from Henderson County and every applicant from Jackson County, one winner was chosen, and that was Mr. Merriman. This recognition is just a testament to his dedication to students, his passion to his teaching, but most importantly, his commitment to his professional growth as an educator. This award allows Mr. Merriman the scholarship that will cover all the costs associated with his participation in the NCAT program, including food, instruction, program materials, lodging, travel to and from, and even a substitute if needed. I believe Mr. Merriman is hoping that NCAT has a satellite office in the Bahamas. Maybe that a PD will happen there, but we're fingers crossed. But please join me in congratulating Mr. Cody Merriman.
Next, we have some exciting news about Hendersonville Elementary Schools. I'd like to invite Ms. Carolyn Henderson up to share their state recognition, not just local or regional, but also at the state level. So Ms. Henderson, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so proud to share some exciting news about Hendersonville Elementary. At the NCDPI school board meeting this past Thursday, HES was recognized as the first school in North Carolina to go through the redesignation process, moving us from a prepared STEM school to being recognized at the highest level as a model STEM school of distinction. Most schools work hard to earn their initial designation. 3 years later, some pursue a one-time renewal. But HES went one step further. We were the only school honored with a redesignation. This represents nearly a decade of high-quality STEM teaching and learning, and it shines a spotlight on the amazing work happening in our classrooms every day. At the luncheon last Thursday, Dr. Aiken from NCDPI reminded us that the goal of this work is to build something that can survive even when there is a change in staffing. That is exactly what HES has done. STEM isn't just a program at our school, it's part of our culture. I saw this transformation firsthand. I served as HES's instructional coach in the early days of STEM, and when I returned last year as principal, I was amazed. STEM wasn't something that we had to add in anymore. It had become the driver for all planning and learning. Through STEM, our students are solving problems, thinking critically, and learning to persevere. They are building confidence, and that's something to celebrate. This recognition belongs to every teacher, staff member, parent, and community partner who has supported our journey. Together, we have built a school where students thrive, where STEM is alive in every classroom, and where excellence grows year after year. Thank you.
And before they get away, I just want to reemphasize what rare air this is for them to be the rededication school and to earn that distinction. Again, as Ms. Henderson shared, they were the only school this year among all of the STEM schools that did that. And this is not something that happens just by happenstance. So certainly congratulations to all the work of those educators in the community at Hendersonville Elementary. Next, we'll move to a new little section we want to do called School Features. Purpose behind this is to let you see a smattering of what's going on. Who's? The program highlight. We're not doing that first? Oh, well, then I stand corrected. We'll next pull up the program highlight. But before I sit down, I do want to say that we have a new school features piece that Dr. Marlowe will share. The purpose of that is so that you can see not just some district-wide initiatives, but some of the things that we are doing at the individual schools that are pushing that mission forward every day. So I will step aside and ask Ms. Wertenberger to come up for the presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation to check in with you about our regional training center. The last time I was talking about this, we had just been invited to become a regional training center for Project GLAD. And because I only want to take less than a minute to talk about this, the reason Project GLAD is important, which stands for Guided Language Acquisition Design, is when we ask educators, okay, raise your hand if you teach through telepathy. Nobody raises their hand. What about osmosis? Nobody raises their hand. The medium that we use to deliver instruction is language. And so being intentional about the language that our teachers use, being intentional about the academic discourse we provide the opportunity for our students to engage in, is what this body of research and this bank of strategies supports. And we now have 6 trainers in the district. That was a big investment of time and energy. We are also now a regional training center, one of only 4 across the country. And the reason that becomes important for us is because we are working towards a revenue neutral, I'm looking at Mr. Socia to make sure I use the right word, a revenue neutral situation whereby, for example, today and tomorrow, Omar and Ann Corbin and I have been at Upward delivering a training for 23 teachers. About half of them are ours. That is at no cost to HCPS. And the other half of those teachers are from other districts. So Lee County is here. We've got a group from Kansas City, Kansas, Buncombe County, and someplace else I can't remember from today. But so those folks are paying a nominal fee to be able to participate in that, which means then I have the money, we have the money to pay for the subs for the teachers that are coming out of the classroom from our district. So revenue neutral, it's not a profit enterprise. It is making sure that we can continue to provide strong professional development that is in-house with our students and our families, and also invite educators from across the region and now across the country to see the good work that is happening here. So that's the reason I had to go first, because I think, may I introduce the next? So I'm going to let the new school feature, the first person or the first school on that is going to be Upward Elementary, and I'm going to invite Mr. Omar Lemus to talk about that at Upward Elementary.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the invitation. So following the fact that we are not a regional training center, at Upward now we have a mission and a vision. And I'd like to read the vision for you today. Upward Elementary is a model site for Project GLAD strategies, cultivating a learning environment that supports content comprehension and language development, and serving as a hub where educators from within and beyond the district come to learn, collaborate, and grow. That's our vision. Why do we do this? As Mrs. Wertenberger said, language is a key driver of learning, right? That's important. Our school, Upward, serves a large population of multilingual learners. But we also understand that strategies like the ones that Project GLAD offers, they're not only good for multilingual learners, but they just benefit all learners from all across the county of all different kinds. One of the things I want to emphasize is that Project GLAD strategies bring core instruction to life, right? To make that hard, complex content accessible for students while developing language skills. And that's why we do it. That's why we adopted this vision at Upward. what do? We, strategies such as pictorial input charts, narrative, mind maps, chants. Those are just a few of the strategies that make learning very engaging and also help students retain information and develop both academic language and critical thinking, as well as making connections. And that's what we're looking for. Our expectations are to basically see that Project Glad strategy is taking place in the classrooms by making sure that strategies are embedded into the core curricula, like CKLA. And what we look for is the evidence of those Project Glad strategies being used in the classrooms by way of looking at the data and see that the data has been reviewed and processed by students, and that promotes learning, okay? So I want to invite you all, when visitors come into Upward, they're gonna be greeted by a language functional environment that starts with the walls in the hallway and continues into the classrooms. I really want you to come see the high impact learning that is taking place in our classrooms. Teachers and students are doing a fantastic work with these strategies. Thank you.
So you can see why Mr. Garrett was in such a hurry to get to our new feature. The GLAD strategies piece that Simone Wartenberger presented was our program highlight. But again, as he mentioned, we wanted to do something called school features now. We can't get all of our schools in front of you just by doing program highlights or things like that. So we're going to work really hard this year to get all of our schools in front of you at some point during the year to talk about something they've got going on in their building that they think is awesome. So we asked them, what are some amazing things that you do? And one of the things that Upward said was GLAD strategies. So it just seemed like a really nice piece to follow up the National Training Center tonight. But the other thing I want to mention, Mr. Lemus said that one of the things I love about GLAD strategies is it brings core instruction to life. There are other ways that our schools do that. So I'm going to introduce the next school for this evening, which is Atkinson Elementary. Something that they do to bring core instruction to life is called Heritage Day. And I'm going to introduce Michaela Luther and Kathy Gilbert.
Yay, I'll clap for you.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Kathy Gilbert, and I'm happy to be here to tell you about a very special event for Atkinson Elementary. It is with much excitement that our school will be celebrating Heritage Day on Monday, September 29th. This originated back in 1995 when Bo Caldwell was our principal at Atkinson. Two teachers, Harriet Dorsey Sterling and Kathy McCusker, organized a day field trip to Camp Pinnacle, where the students learned about mountain traditions and ways of old. Upon their retirement, there was one more Heritage Day, and then it simply faded away for over 11 years. Knowing what the day meant to our students and to the staff years ago, I decided to bring this day back. With the blessing of Harriet Dorsey Sterling and Kathy McCusker, our school holds this biannual event with assistance of over 25 community partners from our county and several surrounding counties, presenting their crafts and mountain heritage to our students on the beautiful campus of Camp Pinnacle. It truly is amazing to see what happens when our students are enthralled and engrossed in the multiple magical moments of the day. This day takes months of planning and preparation to come to fruition, but it is so worth it. We as a staff know we have something very unique to take our whole school for a magnificent learning experience, but it's even better when the students proclaim, even years from now, that Heritage Day was the best day ever.
And hi, I'm Michaela Luther, and while Kathy is truly the mastermind behind the revitalization of Heritage Day, I'm honored to work alongside her in bringing this special tradition to life. And together with Kathy McCusker and Harriet Sterling, we spend months planning every detail, coordinating, scheduling, and preparing to ensure that the day runs smoothly. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how the day goes. So on the morning of the event, students load onto buses and we head to Camp Pinnacle. And upon arrival, they're immediately immersed in one of Western North Carolina's most cherished traditions, the art of bluegrass music. And then the day follows a rotational schedule with both morning and afternoon presenters. So from 9 a.m. to about 11:30, students rotate through approximately 5 different stations, which may include quilting, Appalachian wildlife, square dancing, pottery demonstrations, biscuit making, storytelling, and more. And then after a quick lunch, the entire group reconvenes for a highlight of the day, which is a clogging performance by the nationally recognized Bailey Mountain Cloggers from Mars Hill University. And not only do they perform, but they also teach our students a couple dance moves, which always proves to be a favorite moment of the day. And in the afternoon, the experience continues with our K-1 students returning to school for more heritage-based activities in their classrooms, such as the joy of corn husk dolls and hearing stories from a local Cherokee storyteller. And then meanwhile, students in grades 2-5 stay at Camp Pinnacle to complete the remaining rotations, which include soap making, blacksmith, traditional Appalachian games, and cider pressing. And while the day is packed and admittedly a bit exhausting, it's truly a one-of-a-kind experience. Heritage Day is a labor of love and a powerful example of how meaningful learning happens through hands-on activities and community involvement. And we're just 3 weeks away from this year's event and would love to extend an invitation for you to join us throughout the day, even if only for a few moments, to experience the magic of Heritage Day firsthand.
And if you're in Henderson County, you can't have a September board meeting without mentioning the Apple Festival. But one of our schools, that's their feature. They do something amazing around Apple Festival to include it as part of their school. So I'm going to introduce Principal Brandon Scott, and he's brought some students with him today, Landon Shackle, Charlie Rockwood, and Ryan McDonald.
Come on down. Now, Landon, his grandmother was my chemistry teacher at East Henderson High School in 93, 94. Ms. Shackle, I hope I am making you proud as principal to make up for I did not make her very proud as a student. The North Carolina Apple Festival provides incredible opportunities for our students to be a part of something bigger than themselves each year. Our students at East are positively impacted by this festival in unique ways. First, Eagle alumni and our current Booster Club president, Josh English, serves as the president of the Apple Festival and works hard to incorporate as much student leadership as possible into this event in both the planning and execution stages. Our Eagle students are afforded opportunities to serve all around the festival, and members of our cross-country team that are here today were able to be a large part of the event preparation this year as volunteers. Like the other area high schools, we also had several athletic teams and our FFA working hard to provide parking for festival visitors all weekend. Our East High Garage Band, led by our theater teacher, Mr. Gateskill, and students, was able to take the main stage for the first time this year to provide entertainment as well. Lastly, two of our Eagles, Ryan McDonald, here today, and Lily Galloway were named Apple Ambassador and runner-up for 2025, allowing them the ability to serve the apple grower community and earn scholarship money for their future. We're extremely grateful for opportunities to serve and to celebrate student leadership, and we are proud of the Eagles here today. At this time, I'm going to let Raya say a couple of words.
I wrote something down. I just want to thank you for becoming Apple Ambassador, and it's something I've thought about for years as a little girl. I never actually went to an Apple Festival parade until this year, but I saw pictures and I always wanted to be one of those girls on top of the float, and I feel very privileged to be given this honor, and it was a fantastic experience, and I got to meet and take pictures with tons of people in our community, and especially our apple growers. And it was a wonderful weekend where I got to represent our apple growers, and then I got to go to the opening ceremonies of the fair this past Friday, and I got to cut the ribbon for opening the actual ceremony. Thank you.
So thank you to those schools. Quite a variety of different things that we have going on already in the school year. Heritage Day I've had on my calendar since the first announcement came out maybe 2 years ago, because I got to come to the first one in my tenure here. It was outstanding. Being able to walk around the Apple Festival and seeing our ambassadors, seeing our students who are not only working and volunteering, but leading and helping others is a great blessing as well. So Henderson County Public Schools is part of the fabric of this community, and I'm glad to see them being recognized. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, schools, for sharing some of the good things that are going on in your schools. We are going to continue with our agenda with board member observations, and I would be remiss if I didn't observe and point out to our audience our newest board member, Mrs. Stephanie Cantwell, who is joining us. Welcome to your first board meeting. So, board member observations.
I just wanted to say I had the privilege this past week of getting to be at a couple of our schools, all of our different elementary schools, and got to celebrate our upcoming class of 2038. And just getting to see, you know, their little faces and their excitement, and the thought of 2038 to them was, you know, went right over their little heads. But our little future, and getting to see who they're going to become as they, one of these days, will be seniors. And just Henderson County is a testament to our elementary schools, as we've seen by some of our program highlights already, with Glen Marlowe to Hendersonville Elementary, getting to visit with Bruce Drysdale and see how they're utilizing the dual language program. And then being invited to, I got my invitation to the Heritage Festival, so I put that on my calendar, and I was really excited. I don't have to work that day, so I'm excited to be there. But our little people they're off to a great start this year, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them grow and what they're going to do for Henderson County. So,
Thank you.
So I had the privilege of going to Hendersonville High School, and Mrs. Dr. I want to say doctor, but it's Laura Bruger. Miss Bruger never fails to impress me, and the campus atmosphere is just absolutely amazing all the time. I really appreciated the fact that she enforces the dress code and the cell phone policies, and the kids are just on their best behavior, seems to be all the time. Classrooms, there were a lot less Chromebooks and a lot more pencil and paper, which was really, really impressive. I'd like to see more of that myself. The shop, we were able to go into the shop, and the shop was working on benches for the students to be able to sit on in the courtyard. And I mean, that's a great resource used for the school itself. And then, of course, I got a personal invitation to go to North Henderson High School to go visit Karen Frank's. It's not Frank's, it's Frank. Her class, which is the CNA class, is the HOSA class. Those children, I shouldn't say children because they were as tall as I am and obviously more apt and just extremely intelligent and very, very spot on with their ability to follow instructions without any kind of interference. And what those children have to offer the community coming up is absolutely heartwarming. So kudos to Hendersonville High School and to North Henderson High School. I really enjoyed the visit.
So I also was able to do T-shirt distribution this last week. I went on Thursday and was able to go to Clear Creek Elementary and Edneyville Elementary. And this time, I've been doing this kindergarten T-shirt thing for many, many years, but this time at Clear Creek, they brought in 3 seniors that used to go to Clear Creek Elementary, and they did a story time for the kids, and they had it up on the projector. Well, I guess it's not, it's the whiteboard. They don't use projectors anymore. They had it up on the whiteboard, and they told it in story form with the main characters, and how they showed pictures of them when they were in kindergarten, and how when they were in kindergarten, they got their T-shirts, and then when they went to middle school, how big they were, they showed pictures of them then, and then now that they're seniors in high school and they're about to graduate, so that the kids could correlate the year 2038 with you being little in kindergarten and how you kind of grow, and the T-shirt's really big on them now because it's supposed to grow with them, and that was just genius. That Miss Bailey, Kelly Bailey, had come in and organized all that, and it was so impressive to watch that I hope all the schools start to do that with their kindergartens in the years to come. And then Edneyville, it was so sweet, but the highlight for me was we were able to go to an EC class, and that's the first time they may have been doing it all these years, but it's the first time I've been at a school where we were able to go in and meet an EC kid and give him his T-shirt. And it was just, he was just so unimpressed by us. He had his little bag of goldfish and was eating his goldfish, and there were 3 police officers and the principal and I and the front office person, and he was just unapologetically himself, and it was just the most amazing thing to be able to watch that officer put the shirt on him and him like his shirt, and it was really special. So I just appreciate being able to go in and do that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
You told me I had to step right in here, so
You step right in there. Come on in.
No, of course, I was blessed to, swore in Wednesday morning and went straight to a school. So went straight to Sugarloaf. And I think the funny thing for me was half of them didn't even recognize me because I was in plain clothes and my hair was down. So they didn't know who I was, which was okay. But, to walk through the classrooms and just to see what our teachers were doing. And, of course, they kept teaching. And it was a different perspective for me to get to see. And I really appreciated that. But one of the coolest things for me was there was a teacher's assistant who had been at Edneyville for years, and she worked so hard to get her license and to become a teacher, and I got to go in her classroom and to see her teach. And so kudos to Ms. Morrow. I think that is just a testament to our kids in general of don't give up, don't stop learning. Your time is coming, and hers did, and she was rocking it, and that was so exciting. And of course, you can't beat kindergarten t-shirts. That's my favorite 2 days of the year, every year, and so super glad to get to do that as well.
Anybody else? Okay. We are now down to public comments, and so I am going to take them as they were handed to me. And we will ask that you respect the 3 minutes on the clock. And so we will start out with Mr. Clint Holt.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the time. My name is Clint Holt, and in case the T-shirt doesn't give it away, I'm a member of the local chapter of Public Schools Strong. We felt that the beginning of the school year would be a good time to kind of reintroduce ourselves to all of you. Public Schools Strong is a movement built on one simple truth: when our public schools are strong, our communities are strong. We believe that public education is the foundation for a just, multiracial democracy, and we believe that every child, no matter their race, income, or zip code, deserves great teachers and caring staff, safe, welcoming classrooms, full funding and equal opportunities, healthy school meals that fuel learning and growth, and the tools to learn, grow, and succeed. So in many cases, our priorities align with yours. We share a desire to ensure the students in our community are offered the best possible public education and therefore the best opportunity for success in life. We respect and appreciate the hard work of the Henderson County Public Schools Administration, the teachers, and the staff, and we want to look for opportunities to work with you and advocate on behalf of our public schools. Captain Cantwell, congratulations on your selection to become a member of the board. We would love the opportunity to spend some face time with you and talk more about our organization, and we would certainly extend that same invitation to all the members of the board. To that end, we also request that you be as transparent and open in your committee meetings as you are for these board meetings. It would be helpful for you to include all your meetings, board or committee, on the calendar of events, and whenever possible, open them to public attendance and observation as specified in North Carolina General Statute, Section 143, 318.10. We believe that the better we understand your goals and your challenges, the better we will be able to support you and advocate for those policies and actions that are in the best interests of all students. Public education is a public good. It's worth protecting and investing in. We want you to be able to make the investments in our schools that will return dividends to our whole community now and in the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mary Hardball. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Hardball, and I ask your help to show lawmakers that every child in North Carolina deserves the opportunity to thrive. I reach out responding to the well-respected, nonpartisan research and advocacy of the League of Women Voters of North Carolina and the Community Resolves for Fully Funded Public Education. It reads, whereas the North Carolina General Assembly is legally required by our state constitution to fund a sound, basic public education for every child. Whereas North Carolina public schools educate 84% of K through 12 students, serving 1.5 million students annually, and welcomes all children, regardless of ability, special needs, zip code, income, or family background. Whereas successful public education provides productive citizens who are caring and contributing members of our democracy. You mentioned how you watch the kids grow up and the little ones, and that's what we need. Whereas public schools serve as community centers and drive local economies, in 82 of 100 North Carolina counties, public schools are one of the top 3 employers. Whereas North Carolina public schools are struggling to fully staff classrooms and meet basic needs due to chronic underfunding and rising costs. Whereas our state's long-term economic competitiveness and #1 business ranking depends on a strong K-12 public education system that prepares students to be effective members of the growing North Carolina workforce. Whereas billions in public funds have been allocated to private school vouchers and divert funding for public education. In rural counties, the vast majority of students attend public schools, and there are few, if any, private school options. Whereas state tax cuts for individuals and corporations have shifted more responsibility of funding education to local governments, which disproportionately hurts rural counties with smaller populations and lower tax bases. We, the residents of North Carolina, strongly urge the North Carolina General Assembly to stop the chronic underfunding of our public schools. Public education is the foundation of a strong, inclusive, and thriving North Carolina. Defunding schools defunds our children's futures. Our children deserve better, our educators deserve better. North Carolina deserves better. Legislators, do the right thing and fully fund public education. Please join us. I ask you, and I will leave you copies, please join us in supporting fully funded public education by signing the North Carolina Community Resolves to be delivered to the North Carolina Legislature as it continues to work on the biennial state budget. I also ask that everyone call our legislators as your voice matters. Your support truly matters to our kids and the future of North Carolina. Thank you.
Next, Ms. Joyce Morsteller. Okay, Donna Owens? Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm reading from God's Word in the Gospel of Matthew. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus, saying, "Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" And Jesus called a little child to him and set him in the midst of them and said, "Assuredly, I say to you, unless you are converted and become as a little child, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever humbles himself as a little child is the greatest in the kingdom. Whoever receives one little child like this in my name receives me. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, that would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Woe to the world because of offenses, for offenses must come. But woe to that man who brings the offenses. That your hand or your foot causes you to sin, cut it off and cast it from you. It is better for you to enter into life lame or maimed, rather than having 2 hands and 2 feet to be cast into everlasting fire. If your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and cast it from you. It is better for you to enter into life with 1 eye, rather than having 2 eyes to cast into hellfire. Take heed that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I say to you that in heaven their angels always see the face of my Father who is in heaven. For the Son of Man has come to save that which is lost. What do you think if a man has 100 sheep and one of them goes astray? Does he not leave the 99 and go to the mountains to seek the one that is straying? And if he should find it, assuredly I say to you, he rejoices more over that sheep than over the 99 that did not go astray. Even so, it is not the will of your Father who is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish. We see God highly values little children. It is responsibility for all adults to make decisions for their welfare, for their protection, for their training, for their education. In these days, we hear many voices coming from everywhere crying out, this way for the children, that way for the children. I'm here today to say on the authority of God, the maker of this universe, that there is one way, and that's his way. I ask every adult hearing my words, are you seeking his voice for the best decision that you can make for his children? One day we will all stand before a holy God and give an account for the decisions that we have made for our life and for the decisions we have made for his little children. A question for each of us, I ask, that you ask of yourself in that day, will he be pleased? Thank you.
Mrs. Morstadler?
He sees guns and soldiers and he gets nervous. I am so pleased to be here. I am so happy to see each and every one of you. You are here because you were chosen to be here. This is your time, and it's a wonderful time. And I see that every one of us here, there's not a person in this room, not one, who's not here because they care about our kids. They really have the heart to reach out, and we may not agree, but that's okay, because that really makes life, doesn't it? Wouldn't it be awful if we were all the same? And I know that this word that you heard, I asked you in June to read that. You probably don't remember. And I knew that it would be good to reinforce it this year. I've been coming for about a year to the board meetings, and I have been blessed by you, and I pray I have blessed you in some way. And that when you leave here, you will not be the same as you came, because God is working in us and through us in spite of us many times. And I'm just so thankful to be an anchor for him. And I'm not ashamed to say that I'm a Christian. I'm not ashamed to say I'm a believer. I'm not ashamed of the word that was spoken over this, because this is him. This isn't about us. We're not angry with each other or upset with each other. It's the spirit, the principalities of the darkness. That's who we speak against. And that's who's coming after us. That's who's like wolves. It's like a hungry, roaring lion looking for whom he may devour. And that's from the scriptures. And if it's good, you know it came from the scriptures. If it's not, you know it came from me. So I ask you to put on your spiritual ears and absorb what he wants you to hear. Take into you what he wants you to take in. And the things that are not so important, just don't get upset about it. Be in unity. He wants us to come together, and he doesn't want, even if we disagree, to agreeably disagree. And the word of God doesn't go out void. So what you heard today, I pray will echo in heaven and earth. And when you sleep tonight, ask the hounds of heaven to come and join you and run past you with the word of God, because that's what's important. It's not important to anything to do more than we should, but we must do all we can. And we must, you'll hear this from me a lot. We're going to, teachers, I was a teacher, and I have something I'm going to talk to you about next month. But this time, I want you to hear me again. I'm saying it is up to teachers to teach children how to think, not what to think. They'll get what to think as they need.
Thank you, Mrs. Marcel. Mr. Joe Elliott?
Good afternoon. As we start the new school year, let's take a look at some new private school voucher data and the latest on teacher pay in North Carolina. I would particularly like to make the case that the private school vouchers do not serve anyone but the wealthiest families in North Carolina. Over 80,000 students receive taxpayer-funded private school tuition vouchers in the 24-25 school year. Just over 8% were enrolled in a North Carolina public school the previous year. In other words, 92% of all tuition vouchers used in 24-25 went to students who were already enrolled in private school. The private school voucher investment is not leading to significantly more public school students enrolling in private schools. Vouchers are picking up a larger portion of the private school tuition for families that can already afford private schools. New data also shows that North Carolina teachers rank 43rd in average pay, yet they spend over $1,600 out of their own pockets to supply their classrooms, the second highest expenditure in the nation. The data is a statewide average. I am not implying that the data is specific to Henderson County. Shouldn't the data points be inverse to the ones I reference? We should be paying our teachers much more and fully funding classroom supplies. It is not hard to see the root cause of the inequity. North Carolina spends less than 3% of its gross domestic product to support our public schools. That is the lowest percentage in the United States. Public school funding has been decreasing for years, and the enormous diversion of public funds to the voucher program has accelerated the crisis. It is also easy to identify our General Assembly as the group that has led us to this near catastrophic public school funding crisis. Or to be more specific, our representatives, Tim Moffitt, Jennifer Balcom, and Jake Johnson. They have chosen to spend our tax dollars on the privileged few, ignoring the many who would most benefit. They channel our tax dollars to unaccountable private schools when our public schools and our public school teachers deserve much more help. I have questioned their total lack of support for our public schools repeatedly. I have also suggested to you, our school board, that you invite them to join us here to discuss the state of our public schools. Perhaps it is now time for you to insist on a private meeting with them. You can then publicly share their justification for their voting records. This is what you were elected to do. You owe it to the taxpayers, our kids, their parents, and to all of the fine people who work in our public schools. Thank you.
Mr. Elliott. Next, we have Sheila Clendeming.
Good afternoon. As I've told you before, I'm a retired North Carolina educator. I spent 31 years in the classroom, and this time of year is always really exciting for me, even still. I've been out of the classroom now I retired in 2004, so I've been out of the classroom a couple of decades. It was very exciting to me to hear about Cody Merriman's North Carolina Center for the Advancement of Teaching distinction, because I myself was an NCAT fellow 4 different times throughout my career. And he may need to know, I know that he's left, but there is a campus in Ocracoke Island besides the campus
I shared that with him.
Okay. But I always went to the campus in Western Carolina, and I appreciate that opportunity. The opportunity that I had this evening is to share with you a poem, and it's by our local friend Tim Jones, who you know as the operations director at the Hendersonville Rescue Mission and a deacon at St. James Episcopal Church. It's titled Forest Classroom, and he says that he wrote it in praise of teachers, written for a August 24th gathering of local educators at Canoga Conference Center. That first taste of autumn sparkles in our lungs with a second childhood of ember leaves and honey-colored acorns falling through memory. The most dangerous thing about anything is when we get used to it, when it no longer jolts or invites us into a posture of self-discovery. See all these gospel trees about to arrive with long lines of open flame colors prophesying to us about what it will take to survive another winter? I am them. You are them. We are them, bodies within a body of various stages. And the darkest soil that is not you, that is not me, holds us in place, secretly rooted, uneasily strong. I pray you see it. I hope walls fall down and offer you a glimpse of how many springs you have set in motion with your beautiful fall returning. Thank you to Tim Jones.
Thank you. And last, Paul, I cannot read your last name, I'm sorry. Weisselbaum.
Weichselbaum.
Sorry.
All right, you wouldn't be the first one who had difficulty. Good afternoon. It's interesting how innocuous the words consent agenda can appear. Establishing some sort of relationship with the Carolinas Academic Leadership Network, CALN, is under consideration today by the full board, which almost always accepts the consent agenda without significant questioning. Yet an invitation to a relationship with CALN may be an invitation to hidden agendas and counterproductive divisiveness. CALN is part of a partisan extremist right-wing ecosystem that includes the John Locke Foundation, Heritage Foundation, and several South Carolina organizations committed to the privatization of public education, exemplified by the flood of unaccountable school voucher monies piled on by the North Carolina General Assembly. CALN promotes itself as seeking to improve student achievement through pleasant slogans, but it is doubtful that it is a reliable, impartial advisor ready and able to help the board and the county's residents improve public education for all students in Henderson County. In the absence of a transparent process for inviting CALN into a relationship, one wonders whether the Henderson County Public Schools could become a vehicle for the indoctrination of students, teachers, and staff in right-wing doctrines that undermine public education and trigger unnecessary culture wars. The lack of transparency in the agenda item to start the relationship, unfortunately, raises questions about the legitimacy of the proposal. For instance, what are the content, costs, parameters, expectations, and objectives of this up to now unexplained relationship? Personally, I don't have comprehensive answers for how to improve student achievement in truly public schools. A broad Google search, however, of public education researchers and foundations in North Carolina identifies diverse groups: Public School Forum, Learning Policy Institute, Education Policy Initiative at Carolina, Public Ed Works, Public Schools First NC, and so on. Perhaps our schools already have a board-approved relationship with one or more of these organizations or others not on this list. Perhaps as an alternative or supplement to CALN, HCPS might even extend an invitation to Public Schools Strong to also formally enter into such a relationship to support and improve public education in Henderson County. I urge you to reject this consent agenda item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we are now down to the consent agenda item. I just want to make a clarification. The Carolinas Academic Leadership Network, we did publicly discuss this last month, and we discussed it along the lines of they offer some really good professional development for us as board members. Yes, it does lean right, but we felt like that was an option that board members could access. We have not, and I repeat, we have not entered into any kind of relationship with them. It is just basically, because of our policy, we have to approve that when any board members go to any of their professional development and training and seek to get the training, CEU hours, that our board has to approve them as one of those agencies. Again, this action is not that we are entering into any kind of relationship with anyone. I also want to say that in personnel, we did have a personnel amendment to that, and that is that our school board voted unanimously to extend our superintendent's contract for an additional year, and we're very honored and pleased to do that, giving him always a 4-year contract. He has worked tirelessly and meticulously in this school district, and we certainly do want the public to know our appreciation for him. We also gave him an added retirement supplement, and we do not feel that that's anything that we want to hide. He very well deserves to be paid at that level, and we want to make that very clear and transparent. So with that said, you see the consent agenda before you. Any items that you have any issues with, please let me know before we take a motion to approve.
I'd like to make a motion to pull out the Carolinas Academic Leadership Network and add that to new business number C.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I just think if we're going to do it, it's a motion that can be read in public and not just put in consent agenda. It's pretty easy.
Any other discussion? And add that to you.
New business
C.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And Dr. Evis, you can actually, with that change, proceed to vote on the consent agenda, because if any board member objects to something being on the consent agenda, it's automatically moved to the action. So you can just proceed to vote on the remainder of the consent.
Okay.
items.
So we proceed to vote on the remainder of the consent agenda.
So moved.
A second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we are moving that. Do we need to amend our agenda at this point?
You do not.
Okay.
It's just, unless there's an objection procedurally, it moves to new business.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chairman?
Certainly.
Yes.
Do I need to recuse myself from the minutes for our August 1st since I wasn't here?
No.
The last meeting?
No.
Are we good? Okay.
You're fine. All right, so with that said, we are to old business. And we are going to be in a discussion about instrument funding. Dr. Marlowe,
We didn't.
Did you vote on the consent agenda?
did we do it?
I made a motion.
But did everyone vote?
Oh, I'm sorry, we did not
We had
vote.
a second, somebody.
I second.
But you
well,
didn't.
Sheila and I
We didn't say, okay, we didn't say aye.
Okay, excuse me. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Holt.
You're welcome.
So last month, we had some discussion around musical instrument funding. I wanted to bring you a follow-up this month with some information that you had requested, but also to make sure that we are clear on what your understanding is around what's already in place, but also to ask, are we clear on what you want? So that is the first slide. So based on the discussion from the last board meeting, I want to make sure that the intent of the board is to begin building up classroom sets of 7th grade instruments, much like we did for 6th grade, in both band and strings. And then once that is completed, to do the same thing for 8th grade. I want to make sure that's what you want us to do. And after you see some numbers, you might want to have some discussion about that. The other thing is to think about developing a process by which teachers who need capital instruments, those things that are over $5,000, they could submit a request each February of each school year to request the board be able to purchase those. And also to provide a list to the board of per instrument cleaning and per instrument repair costs for review so that you have an idea about the costs that our directors are looking at and based on the funds that we've already put in place for them, which could also lead to additional discussions around funding or cleaning fees, and that was something that you said. But the overall intent was that all instruments should be in the hands of students, and students should not need to share, if I am clear. I just want to make sure. Okay, so 7th grade band instruments. I reached out to all of our directors, and one of the things that I had just not thought about was that the sets of instruments that we purchased for 6th grade, those are going to look different as kids move into 7th grade and 8th grade, because many of them tried an instrument and decide that they like this one, they want to stick with it, or they like this one, but they want to do something different. Like they might have started with a flute, but now they're into the alto sax or whatever. And so what it looks like in 6th grade is then going to expand in 7th grade. It should look similar in 8th grade, although I didn't do a separate slide for that. It should be somewhat similar in terms of what they would need, because once they make those choices in 7th, they don't change as much once they hit 8th grade or even into high school, although they may sometimes pick up additional instruments. Most of the numbers that you will see on here, the costs, are based on the last agreement that we had with the group that we did the bid with. So most of those costs come through there. We had to reach out just to get some ideas for some placeholder numbers, because some of these are not instruments that we even looked at the first time. So what I took was I asked all of the middle schools, the band directors, and said, what is it that you would need, not counting what you already have, but if you were going to have a set that's going to go into the hands of 7th graders, what would you need? And then I took their average number and then multiplied it by 4. So these are not exact, but it gives you a round number of what we would probably need. And then you'll see the total estimated cost on that is about $286,000. Any questions about the sample inventory that would be needed? Okay, so same thing applies for strings. So obviously there are fewer instruments, but of course kids do switch. And then I took their total numbers, multiplied it by 4 to get an idea about what we would need to purchase as a district, which runs about $49,000. I will say that the number for the bass is really, even if you had one kid playing it, it's really 2 instruments because they can't transfer them back and forth easily. So that would be one at school and one at home, which was the preference of the directors, but may not be feasible. And then also they come in different sizes. That's for all sizes.
Can you say that last part again?
The base, so the preference of the directors was to have one at home and one at school. I know. But you would just half that number should you choose to say that's just not feasible.
Well, yeah.
So, but I put it up there, so you could actually half that one. It is lightning, so. All right, then moving on to cleaning and repair costs. So they range, there is quite the range. When we look at the numbers on the last bid that we did with the companies that we worked with, this was the company that we had the best return on and that we've been working with the last couple of years. So right now, these numbers are still in play. The numbers range anything from basic it just needs a shine to, it needs a read to, I got to do a complete overhaul. So you'll see those two columns right there. Those are the two ranges, and some of those are where the instrument is so bad that it almost might be worth it just to buy a new one. We actually have some like that in our classrooms now. And then if you were just looking at, those are repairs, the clean and polish is the far right column, and those are just cleaning costs. And same thing for strings. Now, I will say strings, for the most part, most of our directors just take care of that in-house, unless it's something that they can't take care of, like bow rehairing or bridge replacement. Most of their cleaning comes down to take the tape off and get it ready for the next student. So that's not quite as extensive, and most of the strings directors are perfectly happy to do those kinds of things themselves. And I know that one of the things that the board discussed last time was, what if we looked at a cleaning fee? So I wanted you just to have these numbers in case that was something that you wanted to discuss for later conversation. And then, as I was asking the directors, so the last board meeting that we had was actually the day before professional development. So I just went, I had them all, a captive audience in one room, band and strings, and so I asked them these numbers, I asked them to get them to me, but then some of the other things that came up as they were talking about it, if they're going to have more instruments, they need to consider, do they actually have space in their existing storage space to be able to put all of these instruments? That's something that we would need to work out logistics for, consider. Also, one of the biggest concerns was, if we have more instruments, that's more planning and repair. And do we have a plan for that? They're very concerned about making sure that the instruments that are in student hands are prepared for them. And is there a long-term plan for making that sustainable? And then they love the idea of being able to keep those kids, so not as many are leaving. They didn't feel like a ton leave because they aren't able to pay, but for the ones that do, and this could make the difference, they're just thinking through, like, are our classrooms big enough? And do we have the space available to be able to have those classes if we continue with those big classes? And then thinking about school scheduling down the way. So these obviously would be longer term logistics, but things that they definitely had some conversation around.
And those are good problems.
That's exactly right. Those are good problems to have.
So I appreciate everything that you've done here. This, to me, was the full intent
Good.
of our program to begin with. And I think where we slid away was buying all the things that were not on this list. And so I know I saw on a slide further down that it talks about larger capital needs.
Now, full disclosure, if you're looking through the whole thing, I included this on the front end of the other one, so you would have all the numbers there.
Right. But the capital needs, if they need some PA system, some whatever that they need, that could be, they can request that allocation. But this was the intent.
Perfect.
And if they had those, was there anticipation that more kids would join? Because if they had that number of kids in sixth grade, why would that be an issue in seventh or eighth?
I think it has to do partly with the size of the instruments. Some of them get a little bit bigger and they have to have space for them. But also, if they keep them, sometimes they're able to combine some classes. They wouldn't be able to do that. One of the directors even told me, she said, we've got such full classes, which is great. As you said, it's a great problem to have. They're having to do an 8A B-day schedule because they won't all fit in one room.
Okay.
So just thinking ahead to what does that look like? Do they need to switch off rooms? Is there another place?
So for like seventh grade, maybe continuing that A-day, okay.
And again, those are things we can work on.
Right.
You know, the question at hand is moving forward with this funding and what this board wants to see that funding do and to provide that direction. These things here, a storage space, all that, I get it, but we'll figure that out. That's either capital requests or working with people to help build storage, or even your biggest storage issues over the summer. What do you do with those rooms? You know, we can work on that piece. What we need direction and clarity here is for your consensus on the intent of this funding that exists in your budget as we move forward.
the sample inventory that you guys provided, I know it's a 286 number and it's a $49,000 number. We were never trying to put an instrument in every kid's hand immediately that particular year, right? And I think a percentage should go towards cleaning, and I am not opposed to having a cleaning fee for parents for these instruments as we start building this thing out at all. Now, some of the bigger items, when you're looking at a baritone saxophone's $888 to overhaul it, we can come up with some parameters on what that would look like. But the sole intent of when we started the program was to put as many instruments in kids' hands as possible, not buy PA systems.
Agreed.
And is there any such thing as insurance on these instruments? Like our parents have Chromebooks, or our students have Chromebooks, and parents have the option to buy an insurance in case of, if you got to overhaul a flute and it costs you $472, we just need to buy a new flute.
So when you rent them, you have to pay the extra $10 or whatever it is a month for the insurance. And now, that's how that's set up. Now, if we start doing it in-house, I think we look at it the same way as our Chromebooks.
We need to look at it, yes.
So am I hearing that you would entertain a cleaning/insurance fee?
Sure.
Absolutely.
'Cause I wouldn't, my suggestion would not be to do 2 fees.
No.
It would be to just figure out
What that
that
is.
yearly
Absolutely.
fee would be for the usage. That way, anybody who had their own instrument could continue to use their own instrument. If they want to purchase one, fine. If they want to rent one outside of this, they would have that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir.
So then we could come up with the fee, the instrument fee, which would include cleaning, insurance, et cetera. Okay.
I also have another question. When you were talking about the cleaning, you were talking about replacing a reed. I bought, like, for my son, boxes of reeds, like, all the time. Like, he didn't have one a year. He went through them a lot. So are these kids, like, in 6th grade? Are their parents not buying them any reeds?
That's possible.
And they're having them just for the whole year?
Because they may not realize it, but it's also, you're looking more at the end of the year when they may have exhausted whatever they have. I know that in some of the POs that are coming through my office now with the funds that our current directors are using, I do see reeds and things like that on some of those.
Okay.
So sometimes they're purchasing and they just have a stockpile.
'Cause I mean, I'm definitely all for purchasing these instruments and, the kids that need them and want to stay in band to be able to use them for sure. But, there is some added cost to the parent as well,
Well, and that was part of some of the other discussion I didn't include in here, but certainly would be part of a conversation in a work session is some of the additional costs. For example, the workbooks, things like that don't always get picked up, and right now they might be asking parents to purchase them. How would that be included? What would we do with those? They are all for getting more kids and keeping the ones that they have.
Nice.
So talking through those things.
I think buying the workbooks and I don't even know if they had to buy a rock stop or something the other day that you
Yes.
put the cello on and that sort of thing. It's no different than buying a pair of shoes for basketball or some cleats for football, or you're buying your kid a baseball bat, or whatever it is for the
Or the
baseball.
bando shoes, the bando band shoes.
Right. And so I see that's a cost of participating in that extracurricular, but I just don't feel that the instrument, we need to get to a place where that instrument isn't.
What was our budget again?
90, right?
That's what I thought. So
It's 100 now.
It's 100.
It's
moved it to
100. You
100.
increased it to
3
100
years.
this past spring.
And we could just start, we could do it a bunch of different ways. We could start with one school and then move, or we could buy, I think what probably would make the most impact would be to start with a certain amount of instruments in each school so that those kids, that it's a price barrier, like we're hitting them first.
Like a couple of instruments from each.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's where your band teachers and orchestra teachers could really work with Dr. Marlowe's office to sit down and prioritize a list. and this is going to be a little bit of a moving target. So
It is.
Nothing's going to be cheaper.
Right.
So to me, you're thinking about $300,000 round number over the next 4 years.
Right.
Which you would be allocating in really 2.5 years. You could probably take care of it.
And
In a
so,
couple of years, you can take care of a huge chunk of this.
I
if
guess-
we prioritize it.
you know, of course, this year we're not charging parents to clean or polish, do anything to the instruments. And so what would be that breakdown of how much are we going to spend on cleaning and polishing versus instruments right now?
So we've already allocated $50,000 to them to go ahead and get started on some early cleaning that they already had to get instruments in their
cleaning.
hands. Yes. And minor repair, like there was just some little stuff. So the 50,000 is already out there. We haven't allocated the other 50,000 yet since we don't have a state budget. So we were waiting on, and we've told them that and they were fine with that. That wasn't an issue. They understood. But they do know that the rest of those funds will be coming.
Well, then I think we need to, if it's $50,000, that's a huge chunk of what we're allocating here, right? So I think we need to really start to think about what would that fee look like for an instrument fee or a cleaning fee, whatever you want to call it, and see if we can get that going by the start of next school year.
So has it not been made known to parents to purchase, like the reeds, the things that they need to upkeep any of these instruments themselves? And just like you said, the stand and other things in the past, that it's all been on the school to be able to purchase that?
Most of them send home letters and some of them have that kind of information in them. But we have, just like we have some students who, it's a barrier for them to rent the instrument, it's a barrier for them to get that extra stuff. And in most of the letters that we've seen, they do offer up an opportunity for the school to be able to take on that cost, but the parent has to ask because they don't necessarily know who those are for.
Okay.
So would it be the pleasure of the board then that the $50,000 balance this year be used to start this process, take the balance of the year to work with the teachers to figure out what a reasonable cleaning and repair fee,
Yeah.
insurance fee would be?
And I'm okay looking at it per, like, if you play the flute, if you play the saxophone, if you play, you know, because there's, like you see here, there's varying costs from a bass than there is from a saxophone, right? And what would that look like? I'm definitely okay with that, rather than like it's $150 to be in the band or whatever the case may be. To answer you, yes. Buy instruments.
Okay.
When we get a budget.
Well, and if you did that, that would then allow us, knowing your intent and the clarity of that intent, to have everything lined up and ready for the next few fiscal years.
That'd be beautiful.
And you're not changing horses in the middle of the school year for any parents, for any schools, for any of our instructors. You proceed as you are. We take the balance of the $50,000 whenever we get a state budget, if we get a state budget, in order to do that. And then we will have this cycle ready to go year one next year. Okay? Any other discussions before, because I'm probably going to ask for a motion so that we can get this locked down.
If I may, this is the first time I've seen this template, if you will. So what we're saying is, this is the way it was supposed to be structured originally, right?
So, yes, and this is the first time I've ever seen this template, and it was very loosey-goosey on how we did it, but we said we want to get instruments in kids' hands,
Okay,
yes.
so we can solid it up and say, basically, the only thing that's going to, that will change here over the next 2 years are the dollar amounts, correct?
I'm
Right.
certain that they will, because part of the dollar amounts for the instruments is off the existing agreement contract that we have with the company, which was started in 2022, and that's about to run out. So I anticipate that they will change. Yes.
And then, I don't know what has changed, but every band concert that I went to, as a parent, I paid to go in. And since, for all three of my kids. And then now that Aaliyah Faith is in strings, I don't pay to go in. So I don't know if that's just the strings department, but I don't see anything wrong with it being, like $5 a parent to come in and watch your kid. And that cost from that can go towards, helping this, because if you go to a basketball game or football game, you're paying, what is it, $7-8 to get in? So, I mean, that would help.
I will say that some of the costs for band events, that they are turning those costs back into things to pay for stuff like all-county band. Like, they have some things that they are rolling those funds back into. So that's one of the reasons I believe that they've started. They have a lot of programming going on, and they want to make sure that they have the funds, and there's not always funds available for some of those big things.
Yeah, so if it's just
And
strings.
Strings
not
has
charging.
variance, so a lot of times they don't need some of those same funds that band might have because they don't have that existing.
Right.
I also want to say to the strings and band teachers, thank you. I think they're doing an awesome job.
Oh, yeah.
And to not take this as hey, we don't want you to have your PA system, right? I think it just needs to be allocated in a different manner and requested in a different manner. That's it.
Can I clarify the remaining 50,000?
Yeah.
Because the 50,000 that we've given them so far, when we take that 50,000, we divide it across 8 schools. So of course, it's not 50,000 for each person. And some of them have run through that pretty quickly as they prioritize their needs. So the question then is, what you're saying is take the remaining 50 and start crafting out what instrument replacement or instrument purchase would look like. Okay.
Yeah, and then I think we need to, like you were saying in February, bring us the other cost. And I mean, if some of that is going to include cleaning and repair, we just need to know ahead of time, because I don't have a problem going to commissioners and stating, hey, look, this is what we're doing, and this is the additional money that we need this year or for the next 3 years or whatever it is.
So some of that ask then could be not just for because I was surprised at the cost of some of those instruments. So not just for the cost of instruments, but also for cleaning, is what you're saying.
Yeah, if that's something
Wait,
we've got to
what?
build in our budget.
So I want that clarification. When
Yeah.
we talk about the fees and the insurance and stuff like that, are we doing one fund or one fee that would be the same for everybody? Or are we comparing a flute to a baritone saxophone?
So
I don't think that we should, no.
I don't think we should either.
I think that's what I'm asking you to allow us to do is we'll take the 50,000 and make purchases.
Yes.
And then we've got the balance of the time before we get to our budget processes to know what type of cleaning and insurance fee would we suggest, why, what does that cover, why, and then figure out, do you want it on a sliding scale or do you want it on an average? That can be up to you all as a board. That'll give us time to actually get that information for you. I think the priority for us right now and tonight is to know about the balance for the 50. The reason you've not seen this is it didn't exist.
Right.
So now we've got it together. The other thing that I would suggest that we do is much like we do for roof replacements or copier replacements or anything else, we know how long does a baritone saxophone last? Is it 15 years? I don't know. I was never in the band. I do know that a sousaphone in 2005 cost $10,000 because I bought one. So to see some of these prices, I'm like, well, it hadn't gone up as much as I thought it might have since then. But, so what I'd like now is just a direction for now. And then we'll continue to build this out using the people that really know it, and that's our teachers and our principals. We can also work with our principals through their budgets to say, much like a PA system for fill in the blank would be the same for band or the same for orchestra.
Absolutely. The 50 grand for now that's already allocated in the budget goes towards purchasing instruments.
So would you want to put that in the form of a motion?
So moved.
Second.
More discussion? Okay, so the motion on the floor is the 50,000 that has not been allocated to the schools already for this year that's left in the budget be allocated to start our purchase plan for 7th graders. And ready for a vote? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And then your
start working
directive
on-
is we will put together then, now that we know this is the direction that the board is going, is we will put those other pieces together with explanations as to why this fee, what that will
Let's just
do.
start looking at it. What is the fee? What isn't the fee? What, you know?
And what I would really like to do again, and Dr. Marlowe, I know you've done a super job organizing this, and our teachers out there, again, you do amazing work. We want to continue to make sure you can do amazing work. Is typically how long does a flute last? Typically, how long does a bass last? And that way we can build it out. I don't know music. I know how to build a replacement schedule. So we'll work together and do that.
So if I may, I'm not trying to add on the length of this discussion at all, but I know Beth had mentioned last board meeting that there were retailers basically that were coming in. Is there a way we can change that, maybe get some different candidates in there? You know, it's like, do we even do that at this point, or do we just not? And that's just, I'm not trying to extend it, I'm just wanting to know how that might look in the future.
I do think if you want to buy your kid an instrument, you should be allowed to buy your kid whatever they want. If they want a $3,500 flute, by all means, buy the $3,500. These are the beginner models, the 3/4 size cellos, the 3/4 size violins,
But do
so
we
on and so
allow them
forth.
to come on to our campuses and sell their,
So I think first is let us figure out what is actually taking place
Yeah.
and how consistently that is,
I
you know.
did ask, and I think that they do that for parent meetings. It's typically at the beginning of the year or the end of the year, depending on when they're thinking about the next year. They said they do invite them in because a lot of parents prefer to purchase. And they need to at least make them available that there are options and what does that look like. But what they said is, you know, one probably sounds about as good as the other. It's not, there are a few that last better. I won't name names. It's not organizations, it's instrument types. So one of the requests from a director was, if we're gonna buy them, let's get the best kind. And we went back and looked at what we'd already purchased, and that was exactly the kind that we had purchased. So that was good to know.
We'd like to work with them on value and return on investment. But, you know, a good common way I think to look at this is we provide baseball helmets, you want your own, you can purchase it. We provide bats, you want your own, you can purchase one. Same thing with football helmets and different things like that, because we
we
would
don't
allow
bring the
that.
vendors on our campuses.
Well, we kind of do with sports dealers.
meetings.
But,
We do?
but
Okay.
let us figure all that out and
Okay.
we'll bring it all back to you. I think what I'm hearing is that you want equitable access for kids without as many barriers as we can remove, which is what has been this discussion for a long time. And that it is spread across all 4 middle schools and all 4 high schools that have programs.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, we can take your motion, and that was clear, so thank you. And then we will have the rest of it that we build out throughout the year, and we'll have that at budget time.
That's what I was gonna ask. Is that an acceptable time to have the next update and the cleaning structure, and does that work for you? Got it.
Thank you for your work on this.
No, thank you. Thanks.
I know it's an added something.
Okay, that finishes old business, and now we're to new business. And Mr. Sosha, we are going to look at the 25-26 school year budget.
Bring your crystal ball.
This is subtitled Hitting a Moving Target.
Oh, monkey dart.
Yeah, come up with all kinds of analogies to figure out what building a budget in North Carolina is like right now with the General Assembly, forgetting when June 30th is. All right, I guess I get to drive this one. Okay, so, yeah, it's only September though, so it's not bad. 2 years in a row, we've come in September. Last year, we had more information, but we did want to get the year started. So that's kind of why we're bringing this to you now with the information that we do have, so that our schools can get operating and the directors can know what kind of a budget they're looking at least for the time being, and as we wait to see what information does come out of the state. So,
And before you move on, the other purpose of that is we have no idea when we'll have anything else. So we know what we know at this point. We'd like to get it in the hands of our schools and let them move forward.
all right, so that's why I put up there, you know, funding sources for our governmental fund. This is sort of the operating piece of our budget, and as of last week, when we started putting these documents together, and lots of pencil and erasing as we kept changing them for the last month. So still the big chunk right there, right? What we know now from currently for the initial allotment that we received from DPI. State's still the biggest piece, 98, almost $99 million of our budget is coming out of the state. So that's where we are right now with the pieces that they've given us. Local current expense, this is the part that we hashed out last March, April, May, all those pieces. So that is as we discussed it at that point in time. We had there's no change in our plan moving forward with the local current expense. Fund 8, the local restricted, the other local piece, 3.4 million. That's the chunk that is the other local piece that is all the restricted. So that the General Assembly years ago gave us the separate funds so that is local funds to Henderson County public schools, and it is not part of the local that gets shared with charter schools. That's the sole purpose of that. It is very directed dollars to us for a certain program. And then we have the federal piece. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as we move down the line. Much easier to see on a screen, or if you can zoom this in. We always like to compare things to last year. It's a little bit tricky this year to compare things to last year in some of the lines because we don't have the final pieces yet. We've talked about how happy we were to have a planning budget from the state, and we moved forward with a planning budget only to find out that the initial budget didn't match the planning budget. It's short in a lot of areas, so we've built things around that. And the big piece up there, if you're looking, the one big red item, $14 million down in federal, that's very eye-catching. And that is partly not to be a surprise too much because almost $8 million of that was ESSER funds that we knew was going away. So that was all part of a plan. We knew those funds were going to be gone, so we expected that. But what we didn't expect not to have at this point, to have at least to present in a budget, was $5 million of Title I money. That's another part of that piece that's missing. We typically would have that in our budget. It's coming. We're going to have it. But again, to get this budget out to you as soon as we could, we wanted to get what we had, and we're going to continue. We're going to have a lot of amendments this year. As funds drop in, we're going to bring them to you, let you know what they're for and how we have to adapt to it. We had the other federal pieces, the LEP funds that were frozen, then they got unfrozen, but they didn't all come in. So we're still missing another $1.5 million. Those funds haven't dropped yet. So it's a big deficit compared to last year, but we're hoping that a lot of those funds, minus the ESSER funds, will be coming in. And of course, the trickle down to that in those lower charts, as we try to think about where we're spending the money on salaries and benefits, they all look like they're in a big decrease in funding for this year, but it's because of those pieces. They're actually very similar programmatically with what we were spending last year. So to that end, we'll move to the next slide, which is even more difficult to look at. It's a lot of stuff, but yeah, when you get into it, this is actually, though, one of the most telling slides of what our budget looks like, how our budget is built. I mean, it is very complicated, lots of moving pieces in there of different parts, but separating out what fund, where the money comes from, and then all the programs that we are funding. It's not just one big bunch of money. It's very dedicated to different programs that we have. And just like to show, you're gonna try and make it bigger. Where we are getting our funding and where we are putting all of those dollars in play. But, I thought they were going to make it bigger. Okay. So when we looking at this, compared to last year, we got, almost $160 million out there. And so I want to talk largely about what this is going to look like as we are building all of the programs moving forward, because this big part of our spring discussion was around the fund balance. Mm-hmm. So because we don't have a state budget, we are operating on what we had planned back in the spring, But the longer we go without a state budget, the more we're gonna have to look at using additional fund balance this year, because as we're spending under what we know right now, when they come out, if they come out in December with information and tell us to have to pivot midstream, we're gonna have to adjust, and we're probably gonna have spent funds, and we're gonna have to come up with new dollars to operate underneath whatever they give us. So I just bring that to your attention, that we're probably gonna come back to this slide again later. But it does look different than it did in the spring, because the red line was the 12% target that we were shooting for of our budget each year. And we were for fiscal year 25, we had anticipated ending right at 12%, and then we decided to go down to 10% for the coming year. But the way the year ended, at the end of June, we were able to do a lot of moving with state funds to move local expenditures into the state allotment that we had. And due from attrition throughout the course of the year, we ended up only having to use about $830,000 of fund balance last year. So we ended up about $730-ish thousand better than we thought, which nicely is what we have budgeted for this year out of fund balance. So we've in essence put where we thought we were going to be at the end of this past year to the end of next year. So we bought ourselves another year of still being solid with our fund balance. Again, that is going to come into play as the state budget comes out, as we navigate through the waters of child nutrition this year. We'll have a little bit to talk about that one later, because this is going to have to come out and help not only our local budget with cash flow, but we could end up trying to deal with cash flow in that program as well. So we just want to keep an eye on this one as we go through the budget. So we already talked about some of the big things that we're dealing with right now. Federal budgets that were delayed, frozen. The state budget, not out yet. No knowledge of when we're going to get to that one. What we are spending the money on, what those other pieces that we were just showing you, we've got, 827 equivalent full-time teaching positions out there. It's really more like almost 900 people that make up that. In Henderson County, the average, as I put up there, it's $52,000. It's almost exactly the same as it was last year, because no state raises have come in. That number is almost exactly what it was last year. But just wanted to show that as to where we are, what a big chunk of our budget, that's the number one line item that we have in our budget, is classroom teachers. So that is where we are spending most of our money. We do also have the local component of that. We are slightly under what average for the state looks like for how many local. We're paying 6% of ours are paid locally. The average is just shy of 7% across the state. As far as the western region is concerned, we have a lot more locally paid teachers than the western region does, because they're using low wealth, small county funds that are state funded, so they don't have to use local funds. But we don't get either of those, so we have to rely on the county to be able to handle that. We talked about the fund balance. Right now we're sitting just about 12%, which was our original target before we wanted to go down to 10%. So we are healthy on there, but just keeping aware of knowing the way, the direction, all the things are going in the state. You've seen the news stories. It's a tough time for everybody when it comes to school funding. And always got to point out, $2.7 million to go to 1,000 kids, that we're getting that from the county commissioners, but we're turning around and that goes right out the door to the charter schools. So part of that local budget doesn't stick around with us.
And that's right at 7%. 7% of our local allocation. So it's almost like sales tax.
Yeah, very, very much so. Because we've been talking about where, the state doesn't have a budget, but how do we build our budgets without one? What they did give us was 24.67% going into the retirement system for all of our full-time people, and $8,500 per person for anyone who is in the state health plan. We did get that information that came from the state to implement this year, so all the budgets were built knowing those numbers are in play. But for the salaries, we had to go with what we had anticipated being. So the 3% we had built that we discussed in the spring, we put in play to earmark all of the funds in local and federal budgets so that when the state does give us a budget and we expect that there will be salary increases, we already have those in the budget. We're not going to have to then try and re-budget everything and have money in place. So we did plan with those, even though they're not out to be paid yet.
And I think that top line always gets people's attention and should. Your other retirement rates in the state for the county system and all that is half of what that is. And when I was first a superintendent, I think that was 10%, and hospitalization was under 5,000.
What are the step increases going to do as far as, have we done any calculations on what that looks like for us?
So I'll go back to this one, and I'll go back to the average teacher salary.
Yeah.
So they all get a step increase. Average teacher salary is almost exactly what it was last year.
Okay.
And
People leaving at the top and coming in at the bottom are pretty much washing it out.
yeah, attrition, individually, people are seeing something, but as far as the district is concerned, attrition usually covers the same amount as what a step increase does for people. And the other
Thing that'll impact that will be whatever raises are in the
Well,
state budget.
right.
yeah.
That's what we don't have, although he's got 3% figured in for that right now.
Got 3%.
Yeah, because that's kind of been the average that we've seen the past few years. It's somewhere from 2 to 4%. So the finance built in 3% on that in this current budget as well. Now, if it turns out to be 4% or 8%, that's different. If it turns out to be 2%, then we have a little bit of a cushion built in there.
Yeah, and it'll be different. Certified staff and non-certified are going to get a different amount. The teacher schedule, we know, is going to be probably heavy on the low end, which impacts local because they're mostly paid on local, so we'll see more of an impact there.
Okay, one quick question though.
Yeah.
So, they always retroactively do those pay increases to July 1. What will that do to cash on hand if it's a November 1 type of deal?
Because we've built that into our overall budget, the county money's coming in as if we have been, we planned 3% in to our budget and what we asked for, so we're basically going to be building up the
Just
cash.
building up the reserves to get
Building up
ready for that hit.
Whenever that hit comes, yeah, we will have that.
Yeah, that'll be in the bank, ready to go.
It's fun.
The other piece on this slide too, I think that's good, and I had not seen this number as plainly before, is the state average for locally paid positions is 6.9%, and we're on the lower end of that. We're within that range, and for a county that does not get a lot of federal money or a lot of low wealth money, that's pretty impressive. I hope people can understand what your folks have done to try to make sure that you're using that money wisely that we get.
Or you can look at it another way, that the local's not being supplemented enough to hire more teachers, to put more teachers into our schools.
Well, that's the number of positions. Those are extra positions
Right, that's
beyond the state allocations.
Yeah, and to the point, 52,000 average salary, 84, almost 85,000 cost. It goes back to the point of the retirement piece to that, and which is good. We want people to have a retirement to look forward to, but we know it's not all going into the individual person's retirement. When it comes to Fund 4, the capital outlay budget, the list, it's provided in there for, it's the same list we talked about back in the spring. The only addition to that from a dollar perspective is those that were still in progress at the end of the year that we're paying out over the summer. And we just received this past week, $500,000 of state Helene capital repair money, which is going towards the bleachers over at East. So that just came to us, I think, last Wednesday.
Have we received any FEMA money at all?
We have not received any FEMA money yet. We are closing out multiple projects.
I knew the answer to that.
Multiple projects have been closed out. I've signed off on a bunch in the last 2 weeks. So when that means money is going to come in, I don't know yet, but at least our meetings are getting shorter. Less things to talk about. Enterprise funds, because they're always fun to. bring this one up. We've talked a lot about these, but we're going to continue to talk about them. So childcare, 1.4 million, which is so interesting because I remember when it was less than $1 million for that program. Now it's up to 1.4. And the decision made moving forward for this year was do a little bit of an increase in cost and split the difference with the fund balance that they have available. So that's going to be $92,000 out of fund balance is appropriated to balance out, not just charging people more for the year. That's what that has worked out to be. Again, salary increases are anticipated in the budget, so we'll wait and see. We already put the 3% out there to their budgets, then we'll have to adjust accordingly whenever the state does come out with something. And child nutrition, just about $10 million this year, and this year to balance, we're looking at $620,000 out of fund balance. We're trying to implement a few cost-saving measures to get it down to that low, actually, in addition to the $200,000 not going into indirect costs. The flip side to the district on that was that is about the number that we are having to appropriate out of fund balance in Fund 8, because that was revenue in Fund 8 that we're not getting. So we're going to use fund balance to keep Fund 8 moving the way it is. So it's a trade-off. We're paying for it at the district level, just in a different way.
Do you recall what we have in fund balance in each of those?
So, very, very good question to bring up. I want to twist that one a little bit just to change its semantics, but I want to change the conversation around fund balance for those two funds, for the enterprise funds, especially child nutrition, and to talk more about their cash, because the fund balance, especially in child nutrition, is falsely, makes it feel higher because they've got more things that are counted as fund, that help their fund. Some of their assets are making it look like they have more fund balance. So when we talk about cash, there's about 1.1 million, just over 1 million, 1.1 in child care, and just about today, $1 million in cash in child nutrition. So going to keep looking at the cash. And that's why I said the fund balance for local, because of the fact that the USDA is always behind. Like, we have not received our USDA for September yet. So when that comes in, that will bolster the cash in there. But as we get lower on the cash in child nutrition, we have to float the USDA dollars. So if we don't have it in the bank in child nutrition, we'll have to cover that out of the local fund balance. So again, it's all intertwined, but because it's all in First Citizens, but we will have to potentially just keep an eye on. Right now we have money, we're good. We'll get through this year with the cash, but that conversation has to keep in our forefront as we're moving forward as how we can make improvements financially for that.
So explain to us how you're calculating fund balance. That's sans cash, so you're taking equipment, depreciation, receivables.
So it looks at, it's looking at all the assets that are in play, and if you get receivables coming in, like the receivable for the USDA is going to show up. Yeah, it's a receivable, but until we have it, our cash flow is our concern. So we'll have an extra $400,000 in there shortly.
Equipment, though, be counted in fund balance.
Well, it's
receivables, yes, of course. But
yeah, and it's not just simply the fact that we have an oven that's because that's not really in there, but it gets the fund balance is. Let me work on a way I can show that, the calculation of that, because that's when the presentation comes and shows here's how much fund balance they have.
So is it the depreciation that they're writing off? That's what they're considering fund balance?
No, because that affects the operation side of it all, because even though nobody else gets depreciation outside of the enterprise funds.
Okay, just a question, would that be considered an asset? Is that why it's in fund balance? I know, I'm sorry.
No,
No, because it's nonsensical.
Okay.
I think this is a good thing for us to actually look at, so I'll pull something together so that I can show the calculation of it.
So one of the things that we're going to do is, once we get a couple of months in, we talked about coming and showing you the progress this year, and this will be part of that. We can do a comprehensive piece because there's a lot of things that are nonsensical about the way they do things from the federal government on the USDA side, and because we are behind. So once we do those quarterly updates, we'll update you on this piece as well, just so that you're aware. Because again, what really matters to us is, can we cash flow the bills for the current month before the month in the rears hits? And that's where we want to make sure that we've got enough to do.
Yeah, because I was thinking, when it came down to the quarterly report, that was a piece, I wanted to do like a little add-on piece to try to do a little more in-depth stuff with the budgets each time, and that was one of the ones I was thinking that would be the first thing. I want to dig deeper into how we look at the child nutrition piece to talk about it, so.
That's good.
That's why I wanted to start that conversation right now. Well, continue that conversation, I guess, so that we do the best we can with decisions moving forward in the year.
So is this a normal procedure, a normal occurrence for the USDA to be behind?
As long as I've known it.
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes.
Yes.
So can you charge them interest? No joke. I mean, I know, like, yeah.
We did actually.
Could ask for it.
It wasn't simply from them, but we did have money that didn't come to us up front, and then by the time it came, we received additional dollars because they said, oops, this was our bad, we didn't give it to you soon enough, and it wasn't much, but we got a little bit of interest. They acknowledged, so, it's not just the USDA.
Right.
DSS, DHH, I mean, any of those agencies, it just, by the time they get their monthly reports, then they submit time for the payments, they're all a month behind. That's why we do the quarterly report for enterprise a month after it's done, to give them time to get this, like the September in the books. Because we can anticipate it, but until we actually get the money in hand, we don't want to post it.
Well, I've found that with finances, we don't do well if we guess, so we try not to guess.
Only when we have to.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
It was interesting to me, though, that I don't think many of the public understands we have a $10 million food service business that you run alongside your school, and then alongside a $1.5 million childcare business. The economy of scale, I think, is sometimes lost on people.
And I do want to, if you're looking at the resolution document itself, when it comes to child nutrition, and you see $800,000 of indirect costs being charged, that is an accounting entry. We are not actually charging $800,000. It's always in there. It's a large number, but it's just a required accounting entry. They have to calculate what the indirect cost would be, and then there is an equivalent $800,000 revenue for indirect costs not charged. So it's a wash on their books. Lovely governmental school accounting. They're required to show what the expense would be, and then since they don't charge it, that counts then back as a revenue. So it balances out. So just wanted to clarify that if you're looking at it and seeing why we're counting $800,000 revenue of indirect costs not charged, and why there's $800,000 of indirect costs when you had said, don't charge them indirect costs. Just wanted to, Carl's not here to talk about them, but this is just the capital outlay list that was presented in the spring. And just to break it down again, this is what we presented today for the local piece. This is the $37 million that we talked about in the spring, where it goes. We're still, even with the local, largely it is going to salaries and benefits. And because we've got millions square feet to take care of and to ensure, almost 20% of our local budget has to go to take care of those facilities, paying the people to work in maintenance, and as well as providing all of the equipment and the repairs that need to get done, and pay $1 million out for insurance, so that when we have things like last September, we're able to take care of it. But that all falls to local because there is no state money to take care of the facilities, right? That, other than the emergency money we got. So that all does fall to local. And there's, you know, like I said, our 7% going to the charter schools, peaking up a little bit higher now at 7.2 this year. We're still providing supplies. Schools still get supplies from the district. We are providing supplies. That's a little over about $1.1 million of supplies that the district does put out into the classrooms, and doesn't leave a whole lot left. But there's about $1.1 million left for everything else. Whatever Mr. Garrett decides we need to take care of, that's the little bit that we have left after just doing those things. So I just like to show that, because while local is the most discretionary piece that we have, it's discretionary to the extent that it doesn't have to go towards paying the people that we have to pay, and then take care of the facilities themselves. So I know that's a lot.
I just want to say thank you, Bernie, as always.
Yeah.
I mean, really, you do an excellent job, but you also do an excellent job of coming and always explaining to us and helping us understand, because I know it's very difficult, a moving target, and it's just, it's a lot, and I really appreciate you, so thank you.
And like I said, I want to try to make it as useful for you. So if there are, you have questions or your things that, if I'm not presenting it in a way that makes any sense or doesn't help you make the decisions you need to make,
You do an excellent
always
job.
open to change the way things look, so you can help you guys. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I agree with Alyssa. My mic was apparently on the entire time. You explain it very well. You take time to listen and to we don't mess up with your flow whenever you're teaching us and telling us and you're staying on track and focused. I'm still stuck back here looking at something, and then you're moving on, and I'm like trying to catch up with you. It's really detailed. I so appreciate it, and I appreciate your door has been open, and I've been able to ask you questions, and you've been able to explain it to me on my level. So thank you so very much. Thank you.
And please do at any time, stop us and ask us, because it is, as you see, you know, when we talk about discretionary money and what kind of money do you kind of have that you can do whatever with, is 2.9% of a $155 million budget. So that's a big number until you think about 2.5 million square feet and 600 and something acres and 140 something buses and, you know, a $10 million food service enterprise and a $1.5 million child care enterprise. So that doesn't leave you a lot of discretion. And to really get as closely as they do with the budget is amazing, and especially when they've not had the budget, the state part, to start each of the last fiscal years since, I don't remember when. So, you know, that's one of the things that we want to always make sure that we value is those funding sources and keeping up with those funds and making sure you understand that before the approval process, that the public can see it whenever they'd like to, and that we are being good stewards with those funds that we have.
I may be stepping out of turn when I say this, but I do understand, which I do often. I do understand that they had to kind of call it a little timeout in Raleigh because of some really serious emotions going on in there. So I think they're back at it, right? Let's hope. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Sosha needs a motion to approve the initial budget resolution. Floor is open for a motion.
So moved.
Any more discussion or questions for Mr. Sosha? All those in favor of the approving the initial budget resolution? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Okay, carries. Thank you, Mr. Sosha.
And Mr. Sosha, before you step away, why don't you share with them too that there may be more budget resolutions this year because of the fact that this is speculation at this point.
Right.
So
be
as
every
we go
month.
through, you may be seeing a few more budget resolutions, some adjustments. It's not because they're not doing the math correctly. It's just as more money comes in. So some money came in last week that we weren't expecting off the pre-planning allotments. Some of the pre-planning allotments are way off of what we thought they were going to be. So we're going to be chasing that all fall, and maybe even through the spring, depending on when the actual state budget comes out. So they've not forgotten how to do accounting when you see more budget resolutions. It's just because of that speculation piece.
You'll be getting no judgment from me.
All right, Mr. Socia, next on the agenda.
Next, we're going to spend some of that money. Yeah, so this is part of the capital outlay budget was to purchase a new activity bus. So this is, surprisingly enough as it is well over $90,000, even though they used to be $90,000 when I remember that. But now state contract pricing gets us an activity bus for $156,000. That is the quote we have from Carolina Thomas to make that purchase. You see it's on there, it's $146,000, but then to make it an activity bus, we had to do a little bit of modifications, about $10,000 worth to get it up to what we need. But the good news is it's on the lot and we can get it, and it's already old pricing, so it's even going to be a little bit cheaper than it would have been if we had waited another few weeks to get it, because they have it. They will let us buy it.
I move that the Norris County Board of Public Education approve the activity bus purchase as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Motion carries, Mr. Socia.
So interesting trivia, a 2016 Thomas model cost $83,000.
So this is only for K through 5, is that correct? Is that what I'm reading on that?
No, this activity bus will be used for everybody. Right. It's the 72 passengers, so it's the big bus. So we'll use it. And we burn the wheels off of them early because they're under warranty. So we will send that. So the Sound to Sea trip and all that, the nearer the buses, that's where we send them.
Okay, so we moved out of consent agenda for action for the you find it, Carolina's Academic Leadership Network. And last month, as I said earlier, all we did was approve them, or we didn't take formal action. We just asked if there were any issues of approving them as to providing our professional developments and earning our continuing ed units. And then Mrs. Lopez said afterwards, there's a problem with that. It takes board action, okay? So, where are we there?
So on your screen, we have what was included in your packet for the consent agenda. It's policy 2123, board member opportunities for development. You can see there it states, unless otherwise approved by the board, such training must be provided by the following entities. So it's the NCSBA, the Consortium of State School Boards Association, which is what the NCSBA joined when they left the National School Boards Association a few years ago, the School of Government, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, or the Department of Public Instruction. So if a board member wishes to receive training credit or be reimbursed for attending training offered by another entity, he or she must obtain approval from the board prior to participation. So the reason it is on your packet is, I know that was a discussion and a request. So in order for us to give CEU credit, now if no one on the board would want CEU credit or wants reimbursement, you don't need any action. Obviously, any organization you as an individual board member can use for your own professional development or research. But in order for that, for Ms. Clayton to be able to count it towards your required board hours and to build up those CEU hours, that is what requires your action today.
How much do they charge for the professional development?
So I think you can join as a district. You can also join as an individual, or you can pay for individual sessions, is from what I have seen. Now, I don't know as much about that network as I do the ones who exist here on this policy.
So may I? A lot of the classes are free, and they don't charge you anything. They just actually instituted a tier where it's $200 per person. That gets you actually recorded videos, or you can simply continue doing free videos, free Zooms, or you can show up and there's no charge for it. There's no fee. You still have the option to be able to go without being charged anything.
I also wanted to make clear that we get this packet well in advance of our meeting, and that I had read through this document. If I have any questions about anything on consent, I call the superintendent. Like, we just don't get consent agenda and just pass it without asking questions. Like, all that research and all the information that we need, we reach out ahead of time if we've got questions.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion.
I move that the Henderson County Board of Public Education approve the professional development courses offered by the Carolinas Academic Leadership Network will be accepted as training credits for the Board of Education members for the 25-26 school year.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise?
No.
Okay, motion carries. All right, and Ms.
Losing people.
Vergara, we are down to your superintendent reports.
You're next. Tawana's gone next. My goodness.
We're all meeting at Hannah's.
I know.
I will be here as long as you need me, sir. I am entrenched. I will try to do this justice in Carl Taylor's absence. He and Mr. Rhodes are attending the NCASA Law Conference, so we're glad to have them down there, and I'm sure they are saddened that they are not here with us tonight. And
Sure,
I
they're
know
listening
Carl,
right now.
I know Mr. Taylor is heartbroken
Yeah.
that he is not at the podium. This is your capital update. So projects in process, the card access installation is in progress now. We were waiting on a part. So the parts that we were waiting on are hinges that the door hinges that the actual wires go through to do the door activation. They have been on back order. The back order part has arrived and the final phase is taking place. 11 schools had card access added to the doors. 7 are complete at this time, so they're finishing up the final 4. Stadium bleacher replacement at East Henderson. We got it done right in time to host the first JV game and varsity game of the year. So I am very happy with that because there's not a lot of times that you finish a little ahead of schedule. We knew we were going to be tight. And if you want to see a group install some bleachers, this crew could put it down. And they did a really, really good job. We've also had the chance to do some excavating around there, pour the asphalt, and it really lays nicely right behind those bleachers for some tennis courts maybe at one point. So we're gonna walk that off and maybe do a little stakes on that to see if that truly could be done. And it turned out really, really well. I was a little concerned taking the trees down too, that you may be messing with the view and it looking sparse, and it doesn't. It looks really, really good. So glad to have that piece done on the visitor side. Gym bleachers at HMS, if you remember, we did a project at West and at East Henderson to replace their bleachers in the auxiliary gyms. If you've not had a chance to go by and look at those auxiliary gyms, they turned out beautifully. And we went with a little retro logo in each of those schools, so they did a super job. The last phase of that was the gym bleacher seat replacement at Hendersonville Middle, where they were chipped and cracked. We did not use that same product. We went with a different product, and they completed that the other day, and it looks really, really good. If you've not had a chance, take a peek and look at, go watch a volleyball match and check them out. Fleet vehicle, it's an F-250 crew cab truck. Maintenance, it arrived last week, and it is going to the plumbing department. So that did arrive. And then fleet vehicles, we have 2 Nissan Versas that are going to be assigned to technology for them to make sure they can access the county around. And it happened at just the right time because one of the vans is down and one of the vans conked out on Haywood Road at about 3 o'clock last week. one day. So we were able to snag it with the wrecker and get it back to the bus garage before dismissal, so we didn't clog up all of Haywood Road. But we're getting those 2 Versas in very soon. The reason we went with Versas, when we looked at state contract pricing, we had looked at all of the entry-level economy cars, and the Nissan was a little bit cheaper than the Toyota. So we went with that to try to make that money stretch as far as we could. Here is a look at the bleacher area, and you see the asphalt poured and the handicap access there too, the sidewalk that was poured. And I think if you look across from the home side on the visitor side, it is a much better view than you've had in a long time. And that is the access that goes up into the bleachers from behind, and you have the sidewalk that goes to that. So, and then you have handicap access and seating on the actual bleachers. Here is Hendersonville Middle without holes and busted up bleachers. So a big difference there.
I know the teachers are fussing at all of them, don't even walk on the bleachers. Walk down the aisles, stay off the bleachers.
There you go.
Don't touch them.
Well, they do look really nice, and I know they take a lot of pride in it. The gym floor, as you can see, has been refinished well over the summer, so much different. It just looks a whole lot different. The first thing that I noticed every day that I walked in there were those little chips and holes.
Trying to sit on them too is
Yeah.
difficult in spots.
MRTS projects, bus garage, the architect RFQ was released on September 3rd. We will be meeting as a committee in the next, over the next couple of weeks, once this RFQ runs its course, to then select the firm that we would negotiate with, and we will have representation on that along with the county. I did also meet last week, I put in my update with Ms. Brown at the bus garage and Mr. Dillon at maintenance, as we have looked at the 2 preliminary drawings that I've shared with you all previously. The one that Holland and Hamrick drew up is just kind of a general idea of what a bus garage could look like, and then the other that's in Rutherford County that I have that floor plan as well, and made some tweaks on that about operationally and functionally how we would want that to work, so that we want to be ready for that process.
Is that a 2-week RFQ process?
Yes, I think it's 10 or 12 days. They released it on a Wednesday, and we will go not.
10 business days.
Yeah, so not this Friday, but next Friday.
Oh, okay.
Yep. HVAC control replacement, Sugarloaf, all middle schools and north and west. That is under contract. That contract came in, and Johnson Controls has that. Johnson Controls has done a lot of work for us here. Paving, Hendersonville Elementary, main circle parking lot. That'll happen over break, and that is soon for them. This is their last Friday before they have their 3-week break. Flat Rock Middle School, back drive repair. Fletcher Elementary School, bus lot repair. Glen Marlowe, bus lot repair. Mills River and Hillendale are the same age, so we're doing a seal and restripe of that main parking lot. And we actually met out there the other day to look at how we can do some different striping at Hillendale to help get more traffic off the road in the morning. We're going to kind of go with a double stack, and we were able to measure. We're going to go back and trim some of those islands that, if you've ever looked at the Hillendale parking lot, the parking spaces are massively long. They're like 25 or 30 feet long. So we are able to cheat some space out of the entrance, and we'll be able to double stack, which will get more stuff, which probably will help in your other role, Captain, with traffic control there. You know, it's a lot of traffic at a very short amount of time, and then some of those folks who come in early to pick up their kids. So they will be able to double stack that, and we're going to put the actual lanes so they don't have to guess. So it's just fortuitous that the timing of this, we were able to meet and then do that drawing, so we'll have that drawing done. And then roofing, we have in East Henderson and West Henderson, it is in progress. Bonnets is the company that got it, and they began on the 2nd at West Henderson in the X building, which is the vocational building, the CT building in the back. So, how'd Carl do?
All did great.
Well, good.
I have some questions. What is going on in the softball field, Hendersonville Elementary?
Okay, that is a big sinkhole. So we are That piping that runs through there is a drain, so it's not sewer, it is all storm drain. And that storm drain is 40-something, if not 50 years old, and it had a cave-in and a compromise. So we're going to replace the piping, the storm drain underground from that hole back to the street. The rest of it going forward into the property, and it goes down through under the playground and then connects with another storm drain somewhere else off of our property.
That creek back there?
Yeah, it goes down toward that creek. So we were a little fortunate in that it's compromised from there back to the street and not beyond, because it is 20 feet deep, and it is, I think it's a 2 or 3 foot pipe. So it's an expensive pipe to put in, but it is 20 feet deep to put it in. So it costs quite a bit per linear foot to install that. So we're getting prices right now on what that's going to run us.
What does that do to the softball field? Does it run underneath like the bleach or the dugouts and everything right now?
No, it comes back to the street
Towards the stop
before
sign.
you get to third base, toward the stop sign. Yeah, it's on an angle. It's on an angle. So Mr. Dillon has been working with that. We did a little contract with the person who dug it not to exceed X amount, and then stop and see what was needed. So we're in that evaluation process right now. We got down, we know the damage. We ran a camera to see where that damage was. Luckily, it's localized there coming back toward the street. If not, that would have been maybe a $250,000 fix.
Okay, and then the second thing I had was Stephanie and I had lunch and we were talking about capital stuff, and I want to make sure that I did not misspeak. We have not completed all of the projects that were on the original 10-year facility study. We're like really far away from completing that stuff, correct?
Right.
Well, there was East High on there for 40-something million.
Right,
So there's-
yeah.
But all of the double entrances
Yeah, the
and the
safety
controls and all that, we're pretty much,
Well, you've knocked a big
Done.
chunk of, like, that's what the MRTS budget has been funding, is your controls, some of those consumables in those facilities. Where you are now is, again, additions, tear downs and rebuilds, some of those pieces. Now, and that reminds me, the RFQ process, we're still working through. It came back like $250,000, as I shared with you, or something like that. So now we've reprogrammed and said, these are the campuses that need the most look, East Henderson, et cetera. This is the next one, and then pretty much just a paper screening of that original on a lot of those to try to cut down on the pricing to come back and review that, because the initial bid we got from them was an engineer would look at every campus, an engineer would look at every piece of it. So it was a lot of cost that you really don't need. So Carl has been working with Maggie on that piece, and we hope to have something to bring back to you to approve very quickly.
Okay, so question. You said 10 years ago that was created.
it wasn't.
Not quite 10, 2018.
It was a 10-year,
Yeah, maybe
10-year
like
facility
8.
study.
Okay, so I've never seen that. Is it possible we can get an update?
I've emailed it back.
Yeah,
Emailed it.
I've never, s-
Can I get a copy?
Yeah, I can send,
and I guess resend a copy because
I'll
I
send it
don't
to
recall
everybody again. I'll send it.
getting it. Okay, thank you.
How are we on the lighting section of that? Have we done all the lighting that was?
So I know we jumped on a ton of lighting as long as there was the match that came from Duke. Duke Energy doesn't do as much of that anymore, so it has slowed down. But as we find lighting that we do need to replace, it's going back with LED.
Okay.
So it's following what you needed to replace. It's just not at the same clip because you don't have the reimbursements from Duke Energy like you did previously.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Marlowe, you again.
Carl's going to pay for this one.
You did a
You
great
can
job.
answer all the questions. That's the good thing. Dr. Marlowe, the accountability report.
This is always the part where there's good news and then there's things we have to work on, but we were excited about some things. So Here is our accountability report. Those results finally came out last week. They had been embargoed by the state until the state board approved them on Wednesday of last week, I believe it was. We have 17 out of our 23 schools that met or exceeded growth targets. Here you'll see the schools that exceeded growth, and if they've got that little asterisk, it means they exceeded last year as well. And you'll see North Henderson and Early College on there. Look at those numbers by North High. Amazing, I know.
That growth rate for North Henderson, that is phenomenal.
That is the #1 high school in the region and one of the top schools in the state for growth.
I wouldn't doubt it.
And so that's 74% of our schools that were either on that first slide or this one. All of these schools met growth. You might see some negatives on there, but that means that they were still within that range that shows that they met growth. So I just know they've been working really hard, and I keep having to remind myself that they missed some days last year they didn't get to make up. And we didn't want to use that as any kind of excuse to the point that I forgot that it happened. So hats off to them for working so hard.
Excuse me, how does this compare to last year?
So last year, we had 17 out of 23 schools as well that met or exceeded growth. I think we had a few more that exceeded, but overall, it was the same number, same percentage.
And the state percentage is 71% of schools met or exceeded, so we're at 74%.
So out of all these numbers, when you look at proficiency and you look at growth, you might remember 80% proficiency, 20% growth is the formula that the state uses, and then they assign grades. You will see up there that we have the same A's. B, we have one extra, which means we have one less C. But one of our D's did slip, and I hated putting that column on there this year. It's not something that we've had, and I really hated it. So we have a plan. Want to see the breakdown for elementary, you'll see where all these numbers fell. One thing that is interesting is the state and the way that their numbers look is kind of a bell curve, and ours is almost the same as the state bell curve, except we have a lot more B schools than they do. Their B schools are like 21% and ours are 40, and their C's are 40 and ours are 27%. So this is elementary, and then you'll see middle schools and our high schools. And of course, you might remember in the spring, I always come and ask for the alternate accountability model for the Career Academy. And so they have for 2 years in a row been maintaining based on that alternate measure.
I just want to point out that our D and F schools, those are our heavily populated ESL kids, and they have a huge learning curve coming into school, trying to learn our language and then testing. It's big, it impacts it a lot. And it's not that those kids aren't growing, those kids are growing, just not that proficiency level is what's causing
They've got
it.
to worry about, they've got to focus on language acquisition first and foremost.
Yep.
Couple of highlights, so if you'll notice, I want to highlight Apple Valley because they've had a steady march the last 4 years where they've now exceeded growth and moved off of the low performing list from a D to a C. And that is not just a 1 year blip, that has been a steady march forward. The same can be said for East Henderson High School. They have been a C, and their school grade has been steadily marching forward. They were at a 69 last year, which is right on the cusp, and they have now crossed over to a B. They had their graduation rate was over 90%. So, and that again has been a steady march. So we have some pockets that we really want to celebrate. There's some others on the list that are still at the D who did exceed growth or made solid growth where they had not been meeting growth previously, and want to celebrate that. But I'm just going to say it out loud. We should not have an F school. We just shouldn't. And that's something that we have to own and something that we have to dig in and work on. And yes, they do have some higher poverty in those schools, and they do have some different challenges, but that doesn't change the fact that we need to get those scores again to reflect what we see to what goes on in that building every day, which is amazing teaching and learning and taking care of kids. But we want the outside number to match what we know is going on the inside.
Do you attribute some of that sliding from Dana to the administrative challenges that they've had over the last couple of years?
So yes, I think you can do that. There's been some leadership. There's been some teaching turnover as well that has solidified itself the last year or two. So they are getting to learn one another. So I don't have concerns about the leadership there, and I don't have concerns about the staff, but it's just kind of digging in and making sure that the right focus is the right focus that's going to pay off at that assessment time. You know, we see tons of great activity. It's just what does it connect to with whether you agree with the state accountability model or not, it's what we have. So that's what we have to live by. When you look at the F schools in the region, very similarly in Western North Carolina, there are 5 or 6, and their demographics mirror Dana quite well. We have a larger ESL population than most of those do, but again, Dana has been higher before, and Dana can get back to there again, and I have all the confidence in the world that they're going to do that.
And I read a part of your weekly update. I forget the state superintendent's name, but that they're looking at changing the accountability model away from the 80% proficiency on the test and more of a growth-centered model. Have you heard anything in your realm on?
No, so he's wanting to put together a task force, and really, when you look at previous state superintendent had asked for the same thing. Catherine Truitt had done that, and there was some momentum this year out of the General Assembly to relook at some grades, but then that bill didn't make it to crossover. So I think everybody knows the 80-20 model is not the best model.
But we just keep it in.
But we've kept it so far. The 2 ideas that I've heard is a 50-50 model, or you get an overall grade, you get a performance, an accountability performance grade, and then you get a growth grade. So you may get a B, an A, and a C, or you may get a D and a B and an overall C. So I don't know what'll come out of that. I think everybody is a consensus that it's not a great model, but it's the one that we have. You know, and as we run the numbers, you know, some years the 50-50 model helps, some years it doesn't. So we'll just see what comes out. But it is a consistent debate. I know the NCSBA's looked at it. They've advocated for it to be revisited. So everybody who has anything to do with public schools, including the General Assembly, knows this isn't the great model. There's just not been any change.
So being on the legislative team for North Carolina School Board Associations, we actually have delegates that we can vote on such as this, on what goes in for the next biennium. And it's really important to have some voice from this body at the meeting. I think it's is it November? I think it's November. We're actually, I can't give you all the details about everything, but there's more going on there than that. So this is one of the things that the legislative team has brought up, the 50-50. Sounds like it seems to be the most reasonable and the most balanced of formulas, not this one. This one doesn't make any sense. But anyway, so I encourage you guys, my term's coming up. I would like to be voted on again, but if someone wanted to go in my stead, that would be great. But also, becoming a delegate at the convention is huge. So whatever steps we need to do to get that done, I would like to see that done. I'd like to be a delegate, and I should be there. I'll be late, but I'll be there. Anyway, it's a great opportunity to literally bring it before everyone's attention and say, hey, look, we stand for changing this somehow through legislator, but changing it.
And I will say, I'm sorry, go ahead, please. Well, I was just gonna say, being in classrooms, just like you get to go on board tours, we don't see F work happening. We see amazing things happening, and sometimes that focus on the growth is getting kids from one grade to another when they were 2 years behind. So they might still not be on grade level, but they are on their way there. So the recognition that there is growth happening is really important.
But you see it with the Bs right there, right? I mean, those are the same kids that are Fs at Dana, right? But, you know, 6 years down the road, they're in high school.
Well, and you have different contributing factors at a high school than you do, because that's where you can use your graduation rate. That's where you can use the math rigor score that they add in there. So, you know, at elementary, you've got 5 scores. You know, you got 3rd, 4th, 5th grade reading, 3rd, 4th, you got 7 scores.
And your
3rd,
whole
4th,
score, your whole school is.
5th grade math, and then you got science. And then middle school is kind of the same way. But at the high school level, they do value other things which do contribute, when you look at it, that it's not all about a growth score or not all about a test score. It's the other pieces that make them successful.
So one thing, you know, as Henderson County, can we make our own task force to see what this would look like here? Because I'd like to be able to present those numbers, because I know that was something I was asked a lot. And I'm gonna kind of throw you under the bus a little bit, Dr. Marlowe, but when it comes to our Ds and our Fs, and I agree, you know, F is not acceptable. But how are these, when we look at proficiency, because there's a lot of misunderstanding, they think that every kid just goes and takes some special test and that they're all not proficient, and that's just not the case. So what goes into these grades when we look at proficiency that might explain to people why some of these schools are Ds and Fs?
It really is just about the proficiency and the growth rate. So if you're looking at.
I'm sorry, like, if you're not,
They're all taking the EOG.
But
They're
it's in
all
English.
taking the end of grade, the end of course test.
it's all in English,
Yes,
and not everybody speaks English,
correct.
but they have to take the same test.
And so we do assessments in other languages. We do assessments that measure their growth. We're looking at things like typical growth versus what we call stretch growth, like getting them beyond what you would expect them to do in a year. So all those things are other data points that we look at, but the state is only looking at this. So you're exactly right. That's one test that everybody has to meet. And if you have a student who's reading below grade level and they're reading on their level, you've got to put grade level text in front of them as well, because that's what they're going to see on the end of grade test. So you've got to find a way to be able to prepare them for something that they might not necessarily be prepared for at that time. It doesn't mean they're not going to get there. It's just all about at that time.
And
our
a
teachers
great
work on
example,
that.
a great, just simple example is that in one of our categories of student, you have to be 2 grade levels behind to even be in the program. But that student takes the 4th grade reading test that the AIG kid takes. It's the same test. So their proficiency is measured exactly the same. Their growth is individual, but a level 3, a level 4, and a level 5 is the same for a 4th grader reading on an 8th grade level as it is for an identified 4th grader reading on a 1st grade level. And that is the part that really, to me, is harsh for kids. That's bad for kids, and we need to be able to do better.
So what really got you? I agree that this test alone does not make our children.
It's one day too.
And it's one day, they could be sick, they could be all kinds of things, but it is not a true evaluation of our children. And so I really hope, that's why I'd like if we could do a task force or something just to show a different variation of numbers and what our kids are truly doing. I think that would help bring some clarity to a lot of the citizens of Henderson County of how well our kids and our teachers truly are doing.
And Ms. Cantwell, that's great. So what you will have is the next meeting is we will go into more detail, because our schools that are identified as low performing have to have a separate plan. You also will have school improvement plans that you will see in November, and then we will turn those into the state as well. So there's a logical progression that will help explain some of that. And what would be helpful from your perspective, being brand new, is then how can we break that down that helps the public understand it, who doesn't look. I look at it, I don't look at it every day, but I look at it a lot, and I've done it for 25 years. That's much different than you see it in the paper one day, and then you don't hear about it for another year.
And I would like to take this opportunity to give a little shout out to our state superintendent, Mo Green, because he, at the end of last year, implemented some changes to testing that make it a little bit easier for it not to be just a one-day thing. It's still on the same test, but at least you might get a second chance within a reasonable window of time. There are just some things like that that have changed within the last several months that I think will help and benefit our kids, and allow them to be able to say, like, I don't have to get so stressed out over one test. I've got some opportunity. So,
And then the other side of that is, we know that we have some improvement pieces that we have to attack. When we talk about the standard course of study and making sure that grade level material is there, and making sure the assessments, as we're measuring throughout the year, are preparing our students to sit down and take that exam. So kind of working backwards from what that exam looks like. And that's tasked to us to dig into. So, you know, this is kind of like the best of times and the worst of times as the novel opens up. It's just that snapshot. We know what it is. There's already been work put in to move forward with the raw data that we've had. We'll also get EVOS in October on the teacher data, so we can even pinpoint a little bit better at the student level and the classroom level. All of that goes into it, but we just wanted you to see these preliminary numbers, to know where we are. Overall, we did progress. You've got some other stuff to share on that.
So 2 years ago, I know our strategic plan goal is to get to the top 5. We got a little ways to go, but 2 years ago we were at 31. Last year was 30. We have moved up to 26 out of 115 school districts. So the work is being shown there. There's an interesting column in there that hasn't been there before, but it's the number of days that schools had out due to Helene that were not made up. So they did include that in there, which I thought was interesting. If you look just at our region, which by testing specifications looks at 18 districts, we're 5th. So all the work that is going in is helping us to progressively move up to where we want to be based on our strategic plan. One of the measurements that we do have is that 4-year cohort graduation rate, and all of our schools, with the exception of the Career Academy, which is on that alternate plan, all of them were over 90%. The average for Henderson County Schools was 93.6%, which is a record for us. And that puts us 9th in the state out of 115 districts for graduation rate.
And of those districts ahead of us, only Surrey County really is very large. We're still the largest out of all those districts that
And the
have that
state
number.
graduation rate was 87.7. So, yeah. So, well, yay for us.
Well, it's going up too, so we're happy. The state's going up as well.
We do have state designations, and I did put those on here because these help our schools dig down and create their school improvement plan goals to make sure that they are making steps in the right direction. So one is a state designation that's called low performing. One is a state designation that is new this year, is continually low performing. And what that means, low performing means that they either met or did not meet growth and they were a D or an F. Continually low performing looks at the last 3 years. And the one on there that is just the most mind-boggling is that Apple Valley this year is now a C school and exceeded growth, but they are listed as continually low performing because 2 of the last 3 years they were in that low performing status. So that's one of they've worked really hard, so I'd like to erase them. I'll put them at the end so it'll be really easy to drop them off. But our other schools, we are meeting with those administrators, working with their school improvement teams, making sure that they've got clear plans in place. Same thing for federal designations. So federal designations are Comprehensive School and Improvement, which is CSI, not the TV show. And then Targeted School and Improvement, which is TSI, and you'll see where they fall. They end up on those lists because they have subgroups that are considered low performing. They're not meeting where they need to. And in most cases, it's students with disabilities, which is a subgroup that pretty much all of our schools have. And we work on a regular basis through Dr. Shelton's office to make sure that those kids are getting what they need. And then ELs is our English learners, and then the one that says BLCK is our Black population for subgroup. So you'll see there are a few on there. I wanted to say last year, I think the only one that's different on there this year is Sugarloaf. And they rolled on with students with disabilities, but the rest are all the same.
Dr. Marlowe, and I don't know if you already have this information about how our students in those federally identified groups, like, ethnic, race, gifted, English language learners, I would like to see how we just overall, how we compare to others in our in our western region.
We can do that for you. We just got the data
think you
last
probably just
week,
got it.
and those designations were part of that. We have not had the opportunity to dig in beyond this.
And I would like to also know what is our overall percentage of population in those federally identified groups? Because I think that would be very telling.
Yes, and if you ever are an insomniac or get bored, you can go to the state website. It has the massive spreadsheet that you can disaggregate, and you can match our districts and match districts that are our size across the state. You can put us against the state average. I just would make sure I had plenty of bandwidth on my machine and that my internet was fast enough to handle it, because it's going to grind, because it is huge. But that is something that's available for the public on the NCDPI website. But Ms. Henderson is putting together a lot of different breakdowns for us, and we can include that. And we can share that in the next couple of meetings as we get toward those school improvement plan approvals in November.
All right. Any other questions? Yes. Okay. Was it about school improvement plans, or? Yes, it is. Okay. So they're working, I will say, they're working on those now, and they had been anxiously awaiting this data because they build their action steps and their goals off of those. I think the schools that are designated as low-performing schools, in the past, we've tried to get you those a little early, because we also need to be able to post those for the community to give feedback. And so we'll be working with those administrators to make sure that those plans, most of them have been working on them since the summer. This was the last piece of information that they needed. Thank you.
Mr. Sosha again.
Promise I'll be much quicker with this one. Just one report this month. Operations for local current expense and other restricted through the end of August. Our revenues are at $7,368,000 and expenditures made at $6,442,000. Everything is moving smoothly. The August is the first month that we pay our certified teachers, but as I said, most of those are in the state, so there's a little bit in local. Most of our 10-month non-certified staff, they get their first paycheck in September, so we will get that on the next report. All right, thank you very much.
And Mr. Garrett, General Operations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's my pleasure to share the general operations this month. September is Attendance Awareness Month. So there's lots of things going on across the district about that. September 11th is our first Superintendent Teacher Advisory Council meeting and our first Superintendent Parent Advisory Council meeting. And so I meet with them multiple times across the year. So that'll take place first on Thursday. September 15th through October 15th is National Hispanic Heritage Month. That's the one that splits 2 different months. So that's a 30-day period there where we'll have lots of activities going on across our district as well. We have the intersession break for our flex calendar schools. So Bruce Drysdale and Hendersonville Elementary's last Friday is this Friday before they have their 3-week break. I always like to remind them not to brag too much over the 3 weeks that they're out while the rest of us are continuing through the regular school year. October is National School Principal Month and National Physical Therapy Month. October 2nd is National Custodial Workers Recognition Day. You talk about important people in our business, none more important than that. We have our next set of board school tours on October the 9th, where we will go to Bruce Drysdale, Mills River, and Flat Rock Middle. And then October the 10th is World Mental Health Day. And October 13th is Optional Teacher Work Day, no school for students on traditional and early college calendar. And I think we already went to Bruce Drysdale, so didn't y'all just go to Bruce Drysdale? So we'll get that plugged back in, because I'm like, I know somebody was bragging about Bruce Drysdale, so we'll get that plugged and get it out. But anyway, for the public, at 10 a.m., they're touring 3 schools. So, and 2 of them we know is Mills River and Flat Rock. We have, the Teacher Work Day on October the 13th, no school for students, and that's for traditional and early college calendar. October 13th will be our next regular business meeting here at 4 o'clock. The 13th through the 17th is National School Lunch Week. The 14th is Required Teacher Work Day, no school for students on the traditional calendar and early college calendar. So everybody on the 13th, and then 14th will be no school, 13th, 14th for kids. And then the 20th through the 26th is the countdown to college application week. And now that I've got another senior in the house, I guess I need to pay attention to that a little bit more. She's been working on her Common App. Students out there, get to work on your Common App. A lot of folks are moving toward that. We also have our CACRO College Fair coming up, where they'll go to Blue Ridge Community College and have the opportunity to meet with several schools as they travel around en masse to different districts, and all that college planning. So juniors thinking about it and seniors getting ready to do it. And that is my update for this month, ma'am.
Okay. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All in favor?
He moved it and seconded it.
I think he moved it and seconded it.